Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto and Temari are secretly dating. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Volat Propris and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Temari bowed low in front of the elders of Suna. As the Kazukiya's sister, she had appeared before them countless times, had been present at most of their meetings. As a jounin instructor for the little ones of Sand, Temari had attended several hundred meetings with them anyways. Today, Gaara sat resplendent in his official cage robes. Temari's brow twitched. Gaara rarely wore the cage robes unless there was something official forcing him to act as such. Or unless he wanted to prove a point to his rather obstinate siblings on the matter of rank and orders. In either case, Temari knew the robes spelled trouble. She knew all of these people that Gaara now surrounded himself with at their circular meeting room. They were all formidable nin, and some of the most intelligent people Suna had to offer. To say that Temari merely respected them was understated, but not entirely correct. Well, these were the people who had laid the very foundations for Sunagakure. She knew they also held the future of Sand back by not allowing them to build their own future on what had been formed. They irritated her at times with their old way of thinking. Change intimidated them, and Gaara certainly had been a bringer of change since his alarming transformation from fighting that blonde-haired kid. Uzumaki Naruto. That kid had grown into a man, had recently been installed as the Rakudame Hokage of Konoha, as Temari understood. Temari had been surprised. Gaara was after all Gaara and had achieved the title of Kazukiya young as well, but the boy who'd brought about the change in him was now also at cage level and grown. She supposed she should muster some sort of gratitude, but the brat hadn't changed when she'd attended his coronation ceremony of sorts. He was still ridiculous, smiling like an idiot the entire time. Rise, Temari, the council issued, and Temari did as she was bid, waiting. Certainly they didn't have another mission for her. But then why would Gaara be present if it was a simple A-class mission? Temari waited, tensing as she didn't like the way her little brother was looking at her. But the installation of the newest Rakudame Hokage, the council has reached a decision that will impact our future relations of Sand and Leaf. Temari nodded. To prove our good faith with the new Hokage and to ensure an everlasting truce between Sand and Leaf, we have decided that a higher level of commitment will be required. An alliance with paper has failed in the past. Due to our Kazukiya's influence, Sand has prospered and will continue to prosper with our intended plan of action. Temari nodded approvingly. It was only right to establish alliance with this new cage of Leaf as they did with the old. They owed Leaf much, and though Sand could stand on its own now, it was thanks to Konoha's interference and support that helped them do so. Sand would always have its pride, but they were deeply indebted to the Leaf Nin. It was only right to prove such support by a deeper commitment. The only problem is that she didn't know what else could be done to prove such a commitment. Temari's suspicion tripled as she eyed the council members with a leery eye. We have decided to offer an alliance of truce, and to prove our good faith, Usabaku no Temari will be wed to the Rakudame Hokage, Uzumaki Naruto in a union of our two countries, as proof of our dedication to this alliance. The council finished. Temari's shoulders rippled in agony of the shock going through her system. Ninja did not show emotion, and though she tried to fight the flinch, it came anyways. Weakness, she cursed as she nearly faltered in her steps. Her bow had been one of accident, not of submittal and acknowledgement. Wed, which definitely implied wedding, marriage, and a stream of other correlated synonymous words whirled through her thoughts as Temari choked. She stared at the carpet beneath her, trying to get a hold of herself with the remaining few moments she had left. Shock had taken its toll on her body as Temari clenched her jaw, trying to rebuke her body into obeying. Eyes wide, she nearly trembled. Swallowing, taking a calming breath to cool the anger flashing through her senses, Temari composed herself. She straightened her stance and contemplated the situation at hand. They had just proposed giving her away in a political union of the country. It shouldn't have surprised her. She was the Kazukiya's sister, and as such a political union had always been a possibility. Temari had accepted that when her brother was made Kazukiya of Sand, and there had been no one prouder of him than her. But Temari had no desire for marriage and furthermore, no desire for children or politics. She would be required both if they went through with this ghastly mistake. Temari was the kind of woman who knew what she wanted out of life. She was a jounin of Sand and as such had hoped to be one of the supporting pillars of their future, for and to her students. Temari's gaze went to Gaara. Her little brother had to have known about this, and briefly Temari wondered if it had been his idea. And the Kazukiya approves of this bold gesture of faith. Temari challenged, eyeing the council as her eyes fixed upon the man at the center of the circle. If Gaara spoke against it, she wouldn't have to do this. Silently, she waited, defiantly meeting those forest green eyes head-on with her steel blue ones. She wouldn't beg him, but she sure as hell wasn't about to take this lying down either. If there was a way she could get out of this, she would find it. Sabaku no Temari of the sand carved her own way out of the rock when there was none. As it was, this was a sneaky, underhanded, tragically old way of doing things to ensure that their alliance would succeed. Certainly the old fools could see the shambles of this folly. They should concentrate their efforts on a different measure. Temari was almost certain the Rakudame wouldn't approve of something so old-fashioned. Uzumaki Naruto was, if anything, the first element of change. He was the stone in the pond of ripples that spread into their world. All who encountered him. "I do." Gaara replied, frank and to the point. "This would secure our alliance with Leaf not just presently, but for generations to come." Gaara replied. Temari bit back the hiss of contempt that threatened to spew forth in front of the council and one foolish little brother that she had the desire to render in itty-gritty sand pieces. Chewing the side of her cheek to keep her tongue-in-cheek remarks to herself, Temari bowed, giving her a few precious seconds to rein in her anger. "Am I to presume that this is an order from my lord, Kazuki-sama?" Temari said through clenched teeth. "You may construe it as a mission, if that will help you understand the nature of its importance to Sand," Gaara replied. Temari avoiding clucking her tongue. He was being purposefully evasive and he knew it well. Temari's eyes hardened and she bowed stiffly. The council members exchanged glances as they saw the clear tension between Gaara and Temari. It was no secret that the Kazukiyage's sister had a formidable temper. Realizing the rather delicate nature of this timely news, the council made a decision in its own best interests. As it is left to Kazuki-sama to decide the specifics of such a mission, the council will adjourn and leave you two to discuss the specifics in private while we draw up the paperwork," one of the council members said. "With your approval, Kazuki-sama, we will adjourn and begin working on the paperwork at once." Another spoke. "You may adjourn. I will give you further instruction on the paperwork in due time," Gaara answered regally. The council nodded and bowed, leaving as Temari watched them go and the door shut. As soon as the handle clicked, Temari shot those hardened blue eyes the color of a desert sky at her little brother. "Just what the hell were you thinking when you agreed to such a proposition, Gaara?" Temari spat. "It's not a proposition. I and the council members created it when we were posed with the problem of Leaf. Is this or is it not a mission, Gaara?" Gaara saw her fury and sighed. "I would never order you to do something of this nature." "Then I refuse, respectfully, Kazuki-sama. I am unsuited for this kind of mission," she said scathingly. "Well, I will not order you to do it, sister. I do, however, hope to persuade you to the benefits of this idea before you refuse it," Gaara remarked. "Benefits?" Temari snorted. "Things in sand are growing at a tremendous rate," Gaara replied. "That has nothing to do with a marriage of state," Temari snarled. "It has everything to do with it," Gaara retorted, slight frown on his brow at his sister's lack of control over her famous temper. "The older generation looks upon our peaceful progress and scoffs, desiring more of the war they had seen in their time. The great ninja wars. Old fools," she replied with a dismissive wave of her hand. Gaara regarded her seriously with a cool look of those forest green eyes. "The council members want war?" Temari asked. "I doubt they would ever word it in such a manner, but yes," Gaara replied evenly. "Politics," Temari spat in contempt. "They want continued revenue and profit for our country. They want to see sand rise to its own glory, and this is a desire I share with them. However, their methods are not exactly as pure and honest as their intentions," Gaara replied. Temari, at least, was listening to him and nodded for him to continue as he had her attention. Gaara nodded. "As I mentioned, sand has become formidable. By sharing such a close border with Fire Country, it is only a matter of time before eyes are set greedily upon the wealth and usefulness of Fire Country." "So you think that the council members will want to go to war with Konoha to expand?" Temari asked, eyebrow arched. "I think that it is only a matter of time before that happens. If we go to war, sand will loose and become what it once was before, crippled and starving. If we go to war with fire, there will only be death and casualties on both sides. We will lose that fight no matter what bravado is instilled in our people," Gaara replied. "Gaara, I know you have lingering sympathies and some twisted form of loyalty with that Uzumaki kid, but you're overlooking the interests of our people for a fail-safe," Temari replied. "If sympathy is to wish for any other conclusion than death and destruction, then so be it. I do not desire to see another sand shinobi meet their death at the hands of a leaf, nor do I desire a leaf shinobi to meet their end at the hands of a sand shinobi," Gaara replied. "And so by using me, you stray the blow from happening. This is ridiculous, Gaara, it achieves nothing," Temari replied. "You love our village, do you not, sister?" Gaara asked her. "If you even have to question my loyalty, brother," she snapped. "I know that you love our village, Temari," Gaara replied. "I also know that our youth look to you for guidance, teaching, wisdom. You are an example to them," Gaara replied. Temari regarded her little brother suspiciously. "You are popular with our people for your spirit and hard work. It is clear to anyone who observes you long enough to know how much you love our people. You fight to keep our way of life alive and put the entirety of yourself for the line of duty. Gaara told her. And? She asked skeptically. The people don't merely respect you, Temari, they love you and our youth try to model the example you have shown them. You are not just a political figure, Temari, but an icon among our bolstering strength. Gaara replied. It is true that by doing this, I stray my hand and furthermore any future Cage's hands from harming Leaf. The opposite is also true. Leaf will not be able to harm Sand now or in the future because of such a deep commitment. That is not the only benefit. In doing this, you will set the example for our people. Because it is you, they will accept it with celebration. The youth will admire your courage and the old will throw away such talk of war with an old gesture of assurance between our two countries. The old will not fill our youth with condemnable ideas of the glories of war with such a traditional political move as this one. You have other reasons I presume? Temari scowled. I do. He admitted freely. I will not always be Kazukiage, nor will I always be around to protect you, or Kankuro. Gaara, nothing like that will happen, Temari snapped, irritated and embarrassed by his words. Gaara smiled softly and shook his head. War is always a possibility, Temari, and it will come. You are one of my most precious persons, part of my village, and you and Kankuro are the only family I have. Gaara replied. But thanks to you, you've put a stop to the wars. The people have flocked to you, Gaara, and responded in a way that they have to no other Kazukiage before you. Temari exclaimed. The future is, as always, undetermined. I cannot stop the future, but I can prevent what might happen by ensuring the present. War is always a possibility, and civil war has ravaged our country for years, Gaara said, eyeing his sister. You're serious about this? Temari said, hesitating on her resolve. Very. Also the happiness of my only sister is very important to me. Gaara replied. Happiness? Temari snarled. I think you know how much I hate politics, marriage and the idea of bearing children. I am not a submissive subservient housewife to be doomed to fortitude of a kitchen for the rest of my days. I am a Kunoichi, Gaara Temari stated firmly. And as such, you will need someone who respects that trade. The appropriate suitors in Sand will not have such a high regard for your skill, no matter how invaluable you have been to our youth. Gaara replied. Temari's scowl deepened. What he said was true, which is why Temari hadn't married anyone from Sand in the first place. She didn't need to join herself with backward thinking, political scheming, cretins that would only hinder her brother's work. There is no other man I would be so willing to entrust my sister to than Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara replied. He's an idiot. Temari couldn't help but blurt out. He respects women greatly as shinobi, as valuable assets to any community. Uzumaki Naruto has the ability to see and find worth and potential in anyone, male or female, that he comes across. He is resourceful, optimistic, and believes firmly in his ideals. He follows through, never giving up on what he has determined to believe in. He is an honorable man in the way he fights as a ninja and the way he lives his life. Gaara replied. Temari sighed. She knew how much her brother admired the moronic blonde, and while she had seen those character traits in action, in a very tangible way as looked at her little brother, she couldn't help but be biased about his blundering past. And she didn't want to be married at all, no matter how nice the young man was. Gaara, I don't want to have children. You know that, Temari replied. And you think Naruto would force childbearing on you? Gaara asked, mildly. Temari shifted uncomfortably. No, she couldn't see the idiot forcing her to have children in spite of her biases. He was a man with honor and did treat women better than the majority of sand nin she'd encountered. Temari gave a shake of her head, agreeing with Gaara's measure of the man, even if it killed her to acknowledge him so begrudgingly. And as such, should things turn unstable in Sand or another bloody uprising occur, I ensure not only your and Kankuru's safety, but the safety of our people to flee to Konoha in case of such a dire need. If some other Kazukiage's reign is bloody, then our people will still be safe from that terror, Gaara replied. Gaara Temari was always astounded when she heard the depth of care and concern Gaara had when it involved their people. He had sworn to protect them when he entered into his reign as Kazukiage, and he had followed through on every word he had made in regards to that as he was doing now, even if it was at her expense. It spoke to the level of commitment he had to be willing to consider this in the first place. I know the idea is not appealing. Gaara said delicately. But it will be for the best of our people, and I think you might even benefit from being united with him. Temari scowled. And just what is that supposed to mean? She retorted, hotly. Uzumaki Naruto has a way of breaking and melting the hardest of hearts. Gaara replied, with a smile towards his beloved sister. Temari's eyes flashed, and she turned on her heel, storming towards the door. Will you accept this mission for the betterment of our people, Temari? Gaara asked. Temari turned, eyes narrowed. It is not my answer you need, but that of the Rakudame Hokage. She replied stiffly, effectively sealing her fate. Ah. It did her no good to be so pessimistic. A coy smile curved on her demure lips. There was no way in hell Uzumaki Naruto would agree to something so backwards. She had nothing to worry about then. Temari was sure of it. Hell no. Naruto spun and landed deftly, dodging a lamp aimed for his head. Why was his office always a war zone? He leaped over the chains launched at him, cracking the nice painting Sai had painted for him. He scowled. He wasn't the Rakudame Hokage for nothing, damn it. He managed to dodge the round of kunai and senbon nimbly as he displayed his skill. But it was the chakra-enhanced throw of his leather chair that did him in. In his defense, he honestly hadn't expected her to throw his beloved chair with that sort of accuracy and speed. By the time he registered what it was and got over the shock, it was too late. He smashed into the bookshelf, books clattering down on him. Shit, that hurt. Damn the old hag. It was against his principles to beat some righteous anger into the gambling lush, but that didn't mean he was going to allow her to pummel him either, damn it. Get back here, brat. Tsunade snarled. Niji flank left. Shizune you guard that damn door. Kakashi flank right. Ino take the center and use your technique she snarled and they drew closer. If Naruto could just get over Kakashi he could take Shizune out and make a break for it. After all he had Anbu operatives who would actually listen to him outside the door. Naruto sweated, disheartened as the four ninja drew closer. I said no. She's scary as hell. She'd probably castrate me the night of our wedding. He protested. Don't be an idiot, Naruto, she wants the political alliance to work as much as you do. Ino snorted. I don't want a political alliance. Naruto replied severely. Les, you can't be castrated, you don't have a. Sai. All members involved stopped him before he could be too graphic. Sai, assist Shizune-san with the door Niji ordered as co-captain. Sai grinned much to the regret of the whisker-cheeked cage. I don't even want to be married he whined. Naruto Ino warned, exasperated. If you just shut up and do it, it'll be less painful she said, ice blue eyes blazing as her hands began to form the rapid amount of hand seals needed for the body exchange technique. Painful? Ha. The Rakudame laughs in the face of pain. And don't you dare try to take control of my body and forge my signature on those documents either. If you do it, Ino, I'll dock your pay for the next 6 months Naruto threatened his assistant. And he apparently had said the right thing because Ino tensed, hesitating as she dropped the jutsu. Don't be intimidated, Ino, just use your technique Niji said. Intimidated? He has control of my pay. I'm not risking my pay for some stupid political arrangement she retorted. Naruto grinned. At least Ino was out of the way. One opponent down, 5 more to go, assuming Sai decided to interfere. Then the thought hit him. Tsunade glared. The boy was clearly abusing his Hokage privilege. Team 7 is family. He said, eyeing Sai and Kakashi, and it was you who taught me not to abandon my teammates, Kakashi-sensei. He pleaded. I also taught you something of loyalty to our village Kakashi retorted, gray eye firm and unwavering. Naruto paled and looked to Sai. Sai shrugged noncommittally and pointed to Niji. He's in charge of my pay. Sorry, Les. Naruto, it's for the good of the country Niji replied, exasperated that he, of all people, was forced to such a subservient role as forcing the Rakudame Hokage to sign the paperwork for his intended fiancé and alliance with Sand. He grimaced and cracked his knuckles. He was the Anbu captain of Konoha and as such it was his job to make Naruto see the need to help his people. Naruto couldn't threaten Anbu operatives with pay cuts as his pay didn't come out of the budget and Anbu's operative actually supplied the funding they had with S-class missions. They more than paid for themselves with extra to spare for the village. Niji sighed, resigned to his fate. Even if violence was involved, he would do it for the betterment of his country. He would do whatever it would take to get the ramen-loving Kage to fulfill his duty. The blonde had beat some sense into him during the Chunin exams. Surely the gesture was appropriate if not slightly ironic that he was forced to return the favor. After all, Naruto couldn't dock his pay. Stay back. Naruto cried as he summoned his clones. One of his clones held him hostage, a kunai to his neck. You idiot. Tsunade snarled, throwing the stapler, dispersing the clone with the kunai in a single shot. The kunai dropped to the floor with a thunk. The other clones formed a defensive circle around him eyeing his former friends and family. Naruto, stop being unreasonable, Kakashi said. If she was forcing you to marry Temari of the Sand, you wouldn't think it was unreasonable Naruto replied, eyes searching for a means of escape. Tsunade's hazel eyes narrowed and she cackled her evil old hag cackle that she reserved for truly evil activities, or at least that what Naruto thought. Close in. She ordered, pointing at the whisker-cheeked Rakudame. Severely chastised, beaten and tied to his chair, with an absolute ridiculous amount of rope and chain, the Rakudame faced his group of friends with a pouting, jutted bloody lip and nose. His eyes blacked, his ribs cracked. Holding the Hokage hostage is tantamount to a traitorous offense. He wailed. Niji was currently posted at the door as Tsunade, Shizune and Ino threatened the disgruntled pummeled cage. Kakashi had left after hog-tying Naruto, leaving the interrogation to the three specialists. Sai had disappeared somewhere along the time, leaving poor Naruto at the mercy of two of the three scariest women in Konoha history. He swallowed, bemoaning his pitiful existence. "Don't make me use my interrogation skills," Raymond breathed. Ino snarled, shaking her fist at him. Apparently the threats of her pay being docked were not void if he was chained and tied to a chair. He would have to remedy that when he could use his hands to sign the paperwork. Naruto whined piteously. He had been the one to suggest to Tsunade that Ino be trained by Marino Ibiki in the first place. He now regretted that choice of action. But seriously? He'd never thought her skills would be used against him. Damn, he was in for it. Do you want to be pummeled into oblivion? I can break every bone in your body, runt, and then heal it and do it all over again until you agree, Tsunade threatened. The cage never wavers in his belief. Naruto wailed, defiantly. Then promptly cried as Tsunade ground her heels onto his toe, breaking his foot. This is treachery. He sniveled. Niji shook his head. All you have to do is sign the papers, Naruto. Just make it easy on yourself. Never. I could never betray Sakura-cha. And the strawberry hair-colored girl of his affections opened the door with some paperwork at Sai's insistence that she deliver it now. Okage-sama, Sakura gasped. Shishu. Shizune. Ino. Niji. What are you doing? She exclaimed, horrified. Damn, Tsunade grumbled. Her apprentice was, if anything, a stickler to the rules and probably wouldn't go along with what they were doing. Way to guard the door, Hyuga, Ino snapped. She was the previous Hokage's apprentice. If she was not allowed to enter, I should have been prompted, Niji replied, bristling. What are you doing to Naruto? Sakura said, eyeing the hog-tied cage with a pink-arched eyebrow. Save me, Sakura-chan. They're trying to torture me into agreeing to an evil policy. Naruto pleaded. Tsunade dismissed. He's been offered marriage to Subaku Temari in exchange for a permanent alliance with Sand. He's an idiot not to take it, Tsunade retorted. So you're trying to force him to marry, Shishu? Sakura asked, with a frown. Oh, don't be like that. You know as well as I do that Konoha needs this, Tsunade replied. I'm afraid for the sake of my teammate and the fact that he is the Hokage, I'm going to have to ask that you release him. Sakura replied, regretfully. Ino is his assistant and has the right to intervene if she feels that the Hokage is not meeting his responsibilities. Niji replied. After all, it was the reason they had chosen the buxom blonde as his assistant. Nara Ino, recently married to one Nara Shikamaru, was loud, overbearing, and scared the poor fox bear silly. She would ensure that Naruto would not slack off and would meet the requirements of all his duties as she'd been trained in interrogation and torture methods by Ibiki himself. The fact that she could organize and make one mean cup of coffee were merely bonuses to her otherwise outstanding skills and qualities. Yes, but as head of the medical staff, I clearly can override both Anbu and assistant in regards to his medical health. Sakura replied with a quirk of her pink eyebrows. Tsunade scowled. You're letting him get off easy, Sakura. I'm doing no such thing. Sakura replied. Naruto and I will go get some ramen and discuss the ramifications of such a costly decision, Sakura replied. Naruto beamed with hope. You're being unreasonable, Tsunade replied, looking away, but the smirk tugged at the corners of her features. Sakura would be able to talk him into it, if anyone. Tsunade should have thought of the strategy herself. Then again, outwitting and beating the brat had done marvels for her stress. Niji, make yourself useful, Sakura said, pointing to the cocoon of chain and rope that was the Hokage. Niji sighed and walked over, using his kunai to cut swiftly through the rope while Tsunade unlocked the padlocks of the chains. Naruto was up and out of the chair instantly, eyes wandering between the ninja, making sure they wouldn't try to stop him. Naruto scowled irritably at them and hobbled to Sakura. She sighed and lead on. I may just take the rest of the day off to consider my weighty decision, Naruto huffed and slammed the door behind him. Why Sakura was still friends with Uzumaki Naruto after all these years she would never fully understand. Such were the bonds of teammates, she supposed. He was absolutely ridiculous, getting himself into enormous amounts of trouble, and now he had cage-level things to deal with. In his defense, he had matured marvelously over the years, but even a matured Uzumaki Naruto was still at the heart and core, Uzumaki Naruto. She sighed again and Naruto pouted as he limped. Would you mind healing me, Sakura-chan? He pleaded. Certainly, Hokage-sama. Sakura replied. You know I hate it when you refer to me by my title, he pouted as she healed him. I just wanted to remind you of who you are now. Sakura replied cheerfully. Just because I'm a Kage doesn't mean I'll ever forget that I'm Uzumaki Naruto, teammate on Team 7 with you, Sakura-chan, and the most unpredictable ninja ever. Naruto replied with a wink and a pose. Sakura was already wandering down the stairs and Naruto jogged to catch up. "Ramen again, I presume?" she asked flatly, tucking her hands into the pockets of her white medical jacket. "I'm paying," Naruto said with a grin. The smile was tugging at Sakura's lips as she regarded her former teammate and current cage. "We both know you get ramen for free now at Ichiraku. Which is why I'm buying." Naruto grinned. Naruto had slurped through his third bowl and was slowing down as he worked on his fourth. Sakura picked through her ramen, enjoying the noodles in a more refined, dignified kind of way. "So why aren't you going to go through with marrying Temari again?" Sakura asked. Naruto paused mid-slurp and set his bowl down. Blue eyes met her green ones sincerely. "I think you know why I won't marry Temari, Sakura-chan," he said, reaching for her hand. Sakura rolled her eyes and avoided his reach. "Naruto, we've been through this. I'm engaged to Sasuke, for Pete's sakes. You're going to have to give up eventually." "I'd settle for being the other man. Team doesn't have to know," Naruto quipped with a wink. Sakura sighed. "You're about as subtle as a brick wall, Naruto," she told him flatly. "Does that mean you're considering it?" Naruto grinned. "No. You know I would never do that, and more importantly I know you would never do that, so joking about it doesn't avoid the real question at hand." Sakura replied, poking him in the chest. "I wasn't avoiding the real question," Naruto pouted. "Be serious," Naruto Sakura told him with a small smile. "I was being serious, Sakura-chan." Naruto replied, hurt. "How can I marry someone who isn't the woman I love?" "It wouldn't be right," he replied, downtrodden as he stirred the noodles with his chopstick sullenly. "Because it will be for the good of the people and I know you won't let our village down." Sakura replied as she took another bite of her ramen. "Because it's so simple," Naruto replied sarcastically, rolling his eyes for added effect. "You're the one who's making this complicated. Political marriages aren't necessarily about love but about what's good for those pledged to them," Sakura pointed out. "How positively upbeat of you, Sakura-chan, talking against love," Naruto scowled. "You're sounding more and more like your perverted sensei every day." Sakura snorted. Naruto still looked defeated. Sakura sighed and rubbed his back soothingly. "Look at it this way. You don't know that you don't love Temari. You haven't actually tried yet. And you'll have Gaara as a brother-in-law." Sakura beamed, pleased with her new angle, which was positively upbeat. "But that means I'll also have Kankuro as a brother-in-law," Naruto grimaced. "He's a good shinobi," Sakura countered, settling back down in her stool. "He wears makeup and messes around with dead bodies, turning them into puppets, Sakura-chan. If that's not the definition of creepy and just plain you, I don't know what is," Naruto said, making a face. "Temari is pretty. She's got that exotic look going for her," Sakura replied, unfazed. "Yay, but she's not you." Naruto slouched further into his stool and ramen bowl, slowly slurping the noodles from his fourth bowl. "Naruto," Sakura said hesitantly. "You have to let me go sometime, you're only going to hurt more the longer you put it off," she said gently. "I know, I just..." The bell chimes tingled and Sakura's entire face lit up as she saw the man of her dreams arrive, ninja smoke dissipating. Naruto eyed his ramen bowl, the only constant love left in his life. "Dope," Sasuke said, walking in. Apparently he had just gotten back from his Anbu mission. He took the stool on the other side of Sakura and interlaced his gloved hand in hers. They were engaged, it was only appropriate, right? Naruto swallowed another mass of noodles to swallow his painful lovesick retort. "Team, when are you going to refer to me by my real title?" Naruto demanded after he'd swallowed. "When you've earned it," Sasuke replied with a smirk as he ordered miso. "I could order you to do it, you know," Naruto replied. "But you won't, dope. Even you've got your pride," Sasuke replied. "Bastard," Naruto grumbled, hating that he knew him so well. "How was your mission?" Sakura asked, eyeing him up and down beneath veiled lashes. Sasuke's smirk widened. "I'm injury-free, Sakura. The mission was a success and no one got hurt," he said, answering both Sakura and Naruto's unasked question at once. Sakura grinned. Naruto sighed. Sakura glanced at her watch. "Naruto, I have to get back to the hospital. I'm due for another surgery in an hour. Talk to Sasuke-kun about it though, okay?" she replied, kissing said brooding best friend goodbye and ruffling Naruto's hair fondly before walking briskly out. "Yeah, sure thing, Sakura-chan," Naruto replied sullenly, waving to her as the head of his hospital and love of his life walked away. "Talk to me about what?" Sasuke asked, blowing on his miso before taking a spoonful. "Sakura-chan thinks I should marry Temari of the Sand," Naruto replied. Sasuke coughed, nearly choking on his miso as he struggled for breath. Naruto pounded him on the back, relieved for once that Team was on his side about this. "Team? Team? Don't die on me," Naruto said, concerned, but stopped as soon as he heard the wheezing laughter coming from his best friend. He was choking because he was laughing. "Bastard." Naruto glared sullenly as his friend was finally able to compose himself enough to wheeze out, "And why does Sakura think that's such a good idea again?" Sasuke said, whipping the tears from his eyes. "Bastard." Naruto replied, finishing off his ramen. "Oh come on, you've already brought it up." Sasuke provoked. "I don't know why I call you my best friend," Naruto grumbled. Sasuke waited, knowing Naruto would open up. 3, 2, 1. Fine. Naruto gave in. "Gaara sent me paperwork requesting that I marry Temari of the Sand so that way Suna and Konoha are always allies." Naruto snapped. "Wow." Sasuke blinked, though that damn smirk was still in place. "I thought political arranged marriages were a thing of the past," Sasuke stated. "I did too," Naruto replied glumly. "Apparently they're the latest rage," he soured. "You could do a lot worse." Sasuke pointed out, trying to be helpful as he knew his wife to be had been. "I could do a lot better too." Naruto snapped, glaring irritably at the Sharingan user. "Like who?" "Tsunade's old, Shizune's got her hands full keeping Tsunade sober for her health, Ino's married, Hinata's married, Hanabi's too young and could kill you, Tenten's engaged. Hana's dating Shino. There's that creepy girl in research, but I thought she had a thing for Shikamaru." "Shiho." Naruto exclaimed aghast. "Well damn, even Mogi is dating Konohamaru." Sasuke said, exasperated at his list of eligible Konoha females failed on an epic level. "Ugh. As if I would go for any of those." Naruto exclaimed grumpy again. "There's always civilians." Sasuke replied with a shrug. "Who would die the moment any skilled assassin comes my way? Besides, convincing one to come to a hidden village full of ninjas isn't exactly a D-rank mission," Naruto replied, even more forlorn. Sasuke sighed, knowing the one girl he hadn't mentioned, the one his best friend had been holding out for since they were 3. Sasuke's fiancée. "I'm sorry, but she." "I don't want to talk about it," Team Naruto cut him off, getting up as he left a wad of bills on the counter. For though Naruto didn't have to pay for his ramen anymore, he still did. Sasuke began. "Gotta go. Cage business and all that," Naruto said, walking away with a dismissive wave. Sasuke frowned, but let it be, knowing Naruto needed to be left alone. Naruto sat upon Yondame's head, looking out at the village. His village. When he'd first became Hokage he'd sat on his own head, but that thought was just too odd for the Rakudame to justify and also kind of arrogant when he thought about it for long enough. He would have sat on Tsunade's head in spite, but he could never think properly whenever the old hag was involved. Her person or her representation. He should have drawn on the old hag's head just for her display this morning, but Naruto wasn't feeling good enough to pull a prank. He grinned cheekily in spite of his depression. As Hokage, no one could really stop him, but those thoughts died as he realized he represented the village. Drawing on one's past Hokage's heads, even if they were alive to see it, was not a respectable cage-like thing to do. Imagine what the neighboring countries would say. Naruto sighed sullenly. He didn't even have the option of acting in typical Naruto fashion. Which left the only thing dealing with the real issues at hand. Marriage and political alliance, or sanity. What should he choose? What would his father have done? Naruto had learned his paternity late in life. Knowing he was Yondame's son only made his guilt that much heavier. His father, someone most beloved of the village, had died sealing the Kyuubi inside of him, sacrificing everything, himself, even his son's fate, for the safety of the village. And though Naruto, at times, had felt any number of emotions upon finding out this heavy knowledge, he knew his father loved the village above everything else. That knowledge was chaffing. After all, what kind of father would put the demon fox inside of his own son? But Naruto knew the answer as soon as he had thought that treacherous thought in the past. It was the same answer he came to as a cage. The kind that was a good cage. The kind that loved his village and put his village first until the very end. And he knew what he had to do. Uzumaki Naruto wouldn't do this half-torn. He was determined. He would do whatever it took to keep the village safe, even if it meant marrying a complete stranger to do it. Sakura-chan was right. He didn't really know Temari, but that didn't mean he couldn't learn, right? He would do his best to be the greatest Hokage and the greatest husband ever. He got up and made his way to his desk, signing his name on the documents and effectively sealing his fate. "He what?" Temari spluttered, half choking on her tea. "Congrats," Sis Kankuro snickered. The teacup slammed into the table cracking and Temari promptly walloped him, sending him flying with her oversized fan. "This has to be a mistake," Temari spat, eyeing the signature and the paperwork as Gaara shifted his sand back and forth. "Surely it's a fake. There's no way possible that he would agree to something so backwards." Temari scowled, brow furrowed. "Maybe his council is forcing him, like ours is," Kankuro replied with a shrug. Gaara's green eye twitched. "Sorry, Kazuki-sama," Kankuro said, scratching the back of his head as he winced. Gaara nodded. "I'd like to think that Temari is doing this for her country," Gaara replied briskly. "I banked on the fact that he would refuse." "Ugh." Temari scowled. "You'll be a blushing bride after all." Kankuro grinned. Kankuro, Gaara warned, but it was too late. Temari proceeded to pummel her brother in true sisterly fashion. Gaara sighed. Temari cracked her knuckles as she walked around sand cooling off after a much-deserved pummeling of one puppet master brother. It hit her immediately that this would be one of the last times she was in her home. She would be expected to live in Konoha. Temari fought the tears. Ninja didn't have emotion. But she loved Suna. She loved her students. She had never ever possibly even considered leaving. And now she was being taken from everything she loved and knew. She was being thrown into a completely foreign situation where she would hardly know anyone. Hell, she wasn't even going to be in the same ecosystem. She thought of the lush green of the fertile fire country and cringed. She didn't even like forests. Much less all of that green scattered everywhere. And it would snow in Konoha. She could count on her hands how often she'd had missions in snow. Now she would be living in it. Suna didn't really have the changing of seasons, but she loved that about her country. It was consistent and dependable. Depressed, she continued to wander the streets of Suna. She would miss the shape of the buildings, the sand dunes in the background. She would miss the spectacular sunsets with purple and blue and orange colors colliding. Hell, she'd miss the sun because it would be cold there in Konoha. She watched the small children play in the streets. Temari would miss the people. She caught the eye of a man in a tunic and burnous. His eye motioned to the ally and Temari quirked an eyebrow. Everyone in Suna knew who she was and she knew practically everyone in Suna. So who was this person? Burnous and tunics were commonplace outside of the city simply because of the sandstorms, but he was inside the city. Temari decided to find out. She was an elite jounin after all. She could take care of herself in the case of emergency, and being the Kazukiya's sister did draw quite a bit of attention, so it wasn't as if she'd get dragged off successfully. "Who are you?" she asked as she settled into the alleyway, her fan out and in her hands just in case. "Someone concerned about Suna," the man in the burnous replied. He was tan, well-built, and carried himself like a shinobi. He looked familiar, but she couldn't place the face with the name, mostly because she couldn't see this man's face. She couldn't feel his chakra because he was cloaking it, but he was using a second-rate cloak, so he wasn't as skilled as she was, which was a relief. "I need a face," she replied. The man let down his burnous. It was Matsu. Temari had known Matsu as a semi-respectable shinobi, though a bit chauvinistic. Matsu was deeply concerned with what went on with Suna, particularly with Leaf. Temari weighed that information against what she would hear. Her own grain of salt. Matsu hadn't been in the village for a while as he'd been on a long-term mission for a year. "Matsu," Temari replied, waiting as she crossed her arms. "I've been on a mission for a year. My team discovered some interesting developments while we were gone. There's something you need to know, Temari-san." "And that is?" Temari asked skeptically. Leaf lied. "Kabuto lives." Matsu replied. What?" Temari practically hissed. Matsu pulled out a small satchel and grabbed a single gray thread. Within the pouch. "This is a hair from his head. As your brother is the famous Kankuro, I know you can tell whether this is from a live body or a dead one. 2 of my men died to get this, Temari-san." Matsu replied, deathly serious. "And why are you telling me this? Kazukiya-sama needs to know at once," Temari snapped, getting ready to turn. Matsu grabbed her arm and Temari tensed, ready to strike. Matsu released the hold on her arm, backing up. "Sorry," he offered. Temari paused, waiting. Temari-san, Gaara is blinded by his sympathies for Leaf. If he found out something this devastating, it could mean war. Matsu replied. "You're damn right it means war, and MMMPH." Matsu covered her lips with his hand, scowling as he pulled her back into the alleyway. "Hush. This is a shinobi village." He scowled, glancing around. "I don't think the Kazukiya needs to know about it just yet. We need to figure out why Leaf lied about such important information. We don't have enough hard data to confirm this." "You have the hair, what else do you need?" Temari glowered. "Nah. Data. Motive. Paperwork confirming it. Essentially hard proof that he's alive and an explanation for why Leaf lied." Matsu replied. "So what are you suggesting?" Temari asked, hesitant. "You are going to be married to the Rakudame." Matsu retorted. "And how do you know about that?" Temari's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "The council members are preparing the feasts and celebrations as we speak." Matsu rolled his eyes. Temari scowled. They were assuming this was all going to go through. Ugh. Temari had bigger problems than the wedding though if this was true. "You want me to spy on them?" Temari concluded. Matsu nodded. Temari shut her eyes. She had done covert operations where she was a double agent, but nothing this extreme. If she was caught by Leaf Nin, even being the Hokage's wife would not spare her from execution. But if Leaf had lied about Kabuto being alive, then that could devastate relationships between them. Temari frowned. "Alright." She agreed. "I will find out more about this situation." "Move the wedding up," Matsu suggested. What? Temari snapped. Move it up. Keep the leaf occupied with wedding details and getting their country ready for your arrival. You will have a better chance of success if they are distracted, Matsu replied. What he said made sense. Too much sense. Matsu was a good ninja, she had known him for most of her life. The man was loyal from what she had known about him a year ago. Time, as she knew, could change anyone. Temari wouldn't just be spying on Konoha. Perhaps she could gauge Matsu's loyalty and figure out which groups had discovered such costly information, in case they were traitors. He was questionable at best, but Temari would find out the truth for herself. For now, she would let him think that he was calling the shots. Temari nodded. I'll tell Gaara about the wedding plans immediately and set off for Konoha as soon as possible. Matsu, assemble a list of escorts for me. Temari said with meaning. Matsu nodded. Of course, Temari Hime. Don't call me that, Temari snapped, hating that title as she took off. Matsu grinned and pulled his burnous up, walking out of the alleyway whistling. 2 weeks. Ino screeched. Naruto winced. How she managed to make her voice sound like nails on a chalkboard, he would never know, but he did know that it was damn effective at cowing him. That's what the paperwork says, Ino, Naruto replied meekly. AHG. Ino cried, throwing her almighty notebook organizer into the door with chakra-enhanced fury. Naruto winced as the notebook rebounded and hit the floor, taking a piece of the door with it. She'd taken a good chunk out of his office door without it being a ninja weapon. If Naruto wasn't so terrified of her anger, he might have been impressed. Do you know what this means? She snarled, slamming her fists down on Naruto's desk. Naruto flinched. He was grateful Ino didn't have Sakura's monstrous chakra-enhanced strength, or she might have leveled the cage tower with that blow. No. He replied, wondering if that was the appropriate response. Her screeching tone told him it wasn't. It means that I have to come up with a way to plan a cage-level wedding in a matter of 2 weeks, she snarled, blue eyes blazing. At least you know a florist. Naruto said, scratching his head. Brog. Ino snarled, whipping out her kunai and slamming it into his desk. Naruto winced. He hadn't seen Ino this angry since Genma had broken up with her. You will get me Sakura, Hinata, Tenten, and any other capable female who will be married that you know in this office within an hour, do you hear me, Hokage-sama? Ino snarled. Ino rarely ever used his official title unless she was formal or pissed. The situation was definitely the latter of the two, which meant desperate times called for desperate measures. Naruto nodded and disappeared with cage-level ninja poof. Naruto had the aforementioned Kunoichi summoned, as well as several clerks he figured Ino would need for grunt work, along with his Anbu-level strategist Nara Shikamaru and Jounin Akimichi Chouji. What do you mean it's not possible? Ino demanded, snarling into the phone. I'll tell you what's not damn possible. The Hokage will have the desert lilies in his fiancée's bouquet for the wedding, or Ino snarled and then saw Shikamaru. I'll call you back with specifics. She hung up the phone and launched herself at her man. I just found out I have to plan a cage-level wedding in 2 weeks, she whined. Shikamaru tensed. He knew that face, that look of those nearly tearful blue eyes, the pout with the jutted lip. Damn it. You'll help me, won't you, Shika-kun? She pleaded, blinking her long black lashes at him and looking up at him most becomingly. Chouji sweat dropped and Naruto grimaced at the scene. You don't have to do that, Ino, I already ordered him to, Naruto replied with a smirk. Shikamaru shot Naruto the darkest of looks. Yosh. Ino cried, leaping off of him as she went back to the phone. Chouji. What are you doing here? Ino asked. Not that she wasn't happy to see her former teammate, but she was surprised. He had his own team to be training. My family knows a caterer, he replied with a shrug. Perfect. Ino grinned. Anyone who prepared for an Akimichi feast would be able to do a cage wedding in 2 weeks. Shikamaru sighed, looking from Chouji to Naruto to his wife. This is beyond troublesome, he groaned, looking at Ino's 3 folders of wedding planning details as he began sorting through it. Boy. What are the others for? Ino asked. The clerks are for grunt work, Naruto replied. And where are the girls? Ino asked, eyebrow arching. Naruto flinched, hands up in surrender. I summoned them. The soonest Sakura could get out was 3 o'clock. Tsunade is going to cover for her at the hospital, but Tenten, Shizune, Hinata and Mogi should be arriving within the hour, Naruto replied. You're the best, Naruto. Ino squealed as she hung up the number she was dialing. She pointed, eyes narrowed. Start dialing this number for the wedding cake. You get started on the formal gear for the groomsmen. Naruto, get me a list of groomsmen, now. She ordered, and the clerks got to work. Naruto sighed and had a seat at his desk, finishing the list of groomsmen quickly. At least you're in the wedding, Mara, Naruto grinned. You're making me get dressed up and stand in front of thousands of people in a ceremony for hours. Joyous. Man, this is such a pain in the ass, Shikamaru scowled, shaking his head as he began to sort through his wife's plans, forming his own as he began setting up files for delegating. Naruto sweated as he supervised the process and twiddled his thumbs. Between Ino and Shikamaru, they were able to come up with a list of things to delegate. Shikamaru went to go inform Anbu Ops of their new mission assignments. Ino kept the clerks busy, and by the end of the day they had accomplished a great deal. Naruto sighed and filled out the paperwork. Temari should arrive with her company by Friday. Naruto said as he eyed the paperwork in front of him. We already have Anbu sweeping the guest quarters, Hokage-sama Ino replied, returning to her 3 folders for the wedding and checking notes. You, start writing what I dictate, she said to the nearest clerk who wasn't already scribbling and writing furiously. Ino, you're going to give them carpal tunnel, Naruto said, eyeing them. When Sakura gets here, she can put her medical skills to work. Oh, and while you were in the bathroom, Ten showed up and I gave her the assignments. Ten's got the Chunins working on construction of the cage house. What? What are you doing to my house? Naruto exclaimed. The cage house needed renovation anyways, and we figured we would make it less like a bachelor pad and more like a home. Ino said with a shrug. Naruto groaned. It was fine. Do I even get a say in the renovations? Naruto grimaced. Nope. I already cleared the floor plans. Ino replied. Naruto growled. You want your home to look splendid to welcome your newest bride, don't you? Ino replied, jabbing him with a finger in the chest. But Naruto protested. Most of the remodeling is to make it a bit more like the houses in Suna. We want our Kage's wife to feel comfortable in her new home. Ino replied in a tone that refused argument. Naruto sighed. He had been inside of San's guest housing, and so he supposed he could live with it. It was awfully nice. But he hadn't expected everything to happen so quickly. He huffed. Hokage-sama, go home and think about how you're going to greet your bride-to-be. You need to be dashing. She said, straightening his jacket, and she gave him a gentle push out the door. I am dashing, Naruto retorted with a frown. You are also an unpredictable, disorganized klutz. You need to be formal when addressing Temari, particularly in front of the Kazukiyage's entourage and the rest of the assembled Konoha. Ino looked up to see Naruto flustered and pale. Never mind, I should probably get you a script that you can memorize by Friday. Damn, where's Shika when I need him? Ino scowled. Naruto sighed. Ino sighed and sat down, resting since she'd been on her feet for the past 5 hours. Naruto, you simply will have to shape up now that you're going to be a married man. Ino retorted, raking a hand through her pale blonde bangs. I don't even know what to shape, I know next to nothing about her, Naruto scowled, irritated. Ino frowned. Never mind. I'll come up with something on my own. The first time I'm greeting her will be in front of an assembly. Naruto asked, swallowing again. Ino nodded, biting her lip. Great, so I'll have people watching me make an idiot of myself. Fantastic, Naruto grumbled. Naruto, there's some formality to it, yeah, but if you be yourself she'll learn to love you, as you learn to love her. You did become the Kage for Pete's sakes, like you told us all you would for years. As long as you show the same dedication and hard work to your marriage, it will work out. Ino insisted. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me in my entire life, Naruto sniffled. Karma's a very motivating factor. Now scat. Ino said, pushing him out of the office. We are pleased to welcome warmly Sabaku Temari to Konohagakure. Naruto bowed formally. Neji, Sasuke, Sai, Shikamaru, and other of his Anbu flanking him bowed as well. We are pleased to be welcomed, allow this humble one to introduce his most esteemed superior, Sabaku Temari of the Sand, sister to the Kazukiyage. Temari's escort replied, and finally Temari appeared from her group of ladies surrounding her, pulling back her veil. She had been irritated by their need for the veil, but this was a formal ceremony and she had already fought tooth and nail to be able to wear formal pants as opposed to a dress. She would greet the Konoha informally, but she would do it as a kunoichi, not some simpering female in a dress. She wore a kimono-clad shirt with obi and long furisode-style sleeves draping about her. They added an air of formality and also concealed her extra weaponry strapped to her wrists. She had on puffy pants that swelled well around the thigh and calves and cut back tight with a cuff at the ankle. They allowed for decent movement ability in case of attack, and she had pockets where she could reach the holsters strapped to her thighs. Her fan was strapped to her back and her hair was done in her traditional style, 4 ponytails of her unruly hair waving behind her hit I-8. She would let it be known to all that she was a sand shinobi, not some political trifle. They'd forced her to wear makeup and some light lip sheen, but with as well as Temari had made out, being allowed to wear formal pants and bring her weapons, she didn't fight it. She bowed formally as she was supposed to and took a look at her husband-to-be. Uzumaki Naruto had grown again since she'd seen him last. He was tall and tan, blonde unruly kempt hair beneath his own village's hit I-8. He did not wear the formal robes but wore a white trench coat with flickering orange and red flames on the bottom hem of it. She supposed this was a decent change from his ridiculous orange and black jacket she'd seen him in last. Beneath it, he wore a red shirt with Konoha's emblem and his standard ninja pants and sandals. On his back was a huge summoning scroll strapped across his chest. He wore the cage hat to signify who he was. He hardly looked formal in his attire, but his countenance clearly pointed to his cage ship. She was pleased by the somber tone and gracefully executed bow as he stepped forward into the sunlight to give his next line. She hardly paid attention to what he said as she took note of his tanned whiskered cheeks, the way the tight-fitting t-shirt rippled across his pleasing form, and bright sky-blue eyes. His eyes were the color of a clear day in Suna. Temari was very pleased by the appearance of him. At least he was attractive in his own rights. Now, honored guests from Suna and Konoha, let us celebrate the engagement of my intended and I, Naruto said, bowing to the crowd as they cheered. Naruto took a step towards Temari and she took a step towards him. He smiled sheepishly as he leaned into her ear. They wanted me to kiss you at this point, but I didn't want our first kiss to be in front of a group this large, Naruto said. You may kiss my cheek, Hokage-sama. Temari said, eyes gleaming in approval as he hadn't just taken for granted that she would kiss him. He leaned in and kissed her cheek, earning a bigger applause from the group. Can I hold your hand? He asked, blue eyes wavering as he eyed his intended. Temari smiled, once again impressed that he wasn't assuming. Though she wouldn't admit that Gaara was right, she was thankful that her husband-to-be was asking for permission. She nodded and interlaced her hand with his. He beamed at her and then took her hand in his, and the both of them bowed formally to the crowd. Naruto was pleased that her hand was warm and well calloused. The thunderous applause rose from his citizens. He grinned at his people and then spared a glance at Temari. She smiled softly as she glanced at the crowd around them, eyes scanning the faces there. Lovely, he thought as he looked at her. He grinned mischievously and squeezed her hand in his. He brought their interlaced hands up to his mouth and kissed the top of her hand, releasing her hand and leading her away as the crowds began to disperse and her formal entourage followed after him. Ino stood to the side resplendent in formal attire as the Anbu guard moved around them taking up position. Well met, Hokage-sama, Temari's formal chaperone said. The pleasure is entirely mine, I assure you, Naruto replied with a scratch of his head. Naruto coughed, covering his paws and his blush. This is my assistant, Nara Ino, and she will be seeing to whatever needs Temari has for the next 2 weeks until our wedding. Naruto stumbled over the word as he addressed the rest of her entourage. Temari bowed to the girl she had remembered being on the Lazy Kid, Shikamaru's team. Ino grinned and bowed. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'll be stealing you for the next week and a half with the wedding details. I wanted to make sure you were involved, Ino told her. Temari nodded. Anbu operatives will lead the rest of your entourage to their quarters, but I was hoping to be able to give my bride-to-be a tour of Konoha. Naruto requested, eyeing Temari. That would be most gracious, Hokage-sama. Temari interjected before her chaperone could decline. She glowered at the formal chaperone, who was about to protest. Certainly, Hokage-sama, the chaperone grumbled. Temari grinned. I will see you at the guest quarters later on this evening. Ah, Temari-sama. The chaperone replied glumly. Naruto frowned. I didn't offend. He's a conservative, Temari replied, shaking her head. Speaking to a man without a veil is considered inappropriate, Temari said with a smile. Naruto smiled and scratched his head. Well, where would you like to go first? He said, stammering. Temari eyed him. He was nervous around her. His shoulders were tense and his spine was as straight as a ramrod. Ninjas shouldn't wear their feelings so obviously. Temari brushed it off. The training fields I've heard are quite large, she offered. Did he think she hadn't researched Konoha? Was this question some sort of test of her knowledge? Temari balked. Sure, he beamed and looked at her, half blushing. He stopped mid-stride and offered his arm. Temari half grinned at his countenance. You don't have to do that now that the people aren't watching, you know. She told him simply. I'm not offering because I have to. Naruto replied with a lopsided smile as he scratched his head sheepishly. Temari sighed. Protocol states that I must take your arm if you offer it. Temari replied. Naruto flinched at her tone. You don't have to take it if you don't want to, he replied, blue eyes snuffed as he held his hand halfway between taking it back and offering it, uncertain. Temari sighed and took the offered arm, raising her chin as she eyed her surroundings. Everything was so green. Her nose crinkled at the unfamiliar smells of the city and the lush forest. Hey, I know that we don't really know each other. Naruto managed out. I know that you are the man I was given to for a peace treaty, Temari replied, toneless. Naruto winced. About that, I'd hoped that we could actually Yes. Temari interrupted, wanting him to get to the point. I wanted it I mean us, of course, to be able to have a real marriage, he stammered out as he eyed something apparently interesting on the ground near his sandals and looked back to her before eyeing the spot on the ground again. Temari frowned. Our marriage will be genuine, ceremony and all, from what I understood. She questioned. Naruto smacked his hand with his forehead. Clearly she didn't understand what he was getting at. Feeling defeated but optimistic in spite of his failure, he pressed on. I didn't mean to imply that our marriage wouldn't be legitimate, can I just speak frankly? Naruto asked, eyeing her. Temari smirked at his awkwardness but nodded curtly. I'd like to get to know you before and during our marriage. I've never done anything like this, but well, I want you to know that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this work, Dadabayo, he told her, blue eyes shining in sincerity. Temari was flattered, but flattery was not enough. This working was a political arrangement and nothing more to her, even if he was attractive. If he was being honest about his intentions, she needed to as well. If I, too, may speak boldly, Hokage-sama. Please just call me Naruto. We're going to be married, and Hokage-sama just gets awkward after you hear it 40 times a day for a few months, Naruto told her, smiling. Naruto, then Temari said. She waited. Oh. Go ahead, he said as he realized she was still waiting for permission. Temari paused at his lack of formality, but continued in spite of it. I too desire to make this a successful political endeavor between our two countries because of my love for Suna. But you should know that despite my mission objectives in this successful political coup, that I have no real desire to be joined in any sense of the term with anyone, though I am grateful if it must happen, that it is to someone so honorably. Temari said with conviction. She saw the hurt flash before the whisker-cheeked Kage's eyes before he concealed it. Temari continued on. However, I also do not intend to simply sit back. I am not just a political intrigue to be flounced around in your social circle. I am a kunoichi of sand, an elite jounin, and I expect to be treated as a kunoichi. She said, eyes narrowing on his figure. Naruto paused, searching for the words, his eyes full of hurt. He cleared his throat. I did not mean to insult your skill. He said, once again, blue eyes filled with humble sincerity. I don't want to live a lifetime with someone I don't at least try to love. He said honestly. Political marriages are not designed with love in mind, Hokage-sama, Temari rebuked. It's Naruto, he reminded her, deflated as he fought the feeling to pout. Naruto, then. I understand your position and respect it for what it is. Temari replied. I don't want just your respect, Temari, Naruto said, obviously getting frustrated. Temari was startled by his lack of formality and grateful at the same time. Perhaps in time we will be better acquainted, but for the time being, perhaps we should go on the tour. Temari prompted. Oh. Right. Sorry. He said awkwardly. Are you hungry at all? He asked. I have already eaten, Temari started, and Naruto eyed her. Uzumaki-kun, she completed. Naruto deflated further as she refused to use his name. Alright then. To the training fields, he said, inflating optimistically at the prospect. Temari simply nodded. The day dragged on as Naruto led her through the training fields, was able to show her where Anbu headquarters and the barracks were. He showed her the ninja academy, and they both said hello to the children. Temari, this is Iruka-sensei, he was my instructor back in my academy days. Naruto said with a smile as he introduced Iruka. Iruka was a tall man with a brown-haired ponytail, tanned skin and brown eyes. He bore a scar across his nose, and his hair was streaked with gray on the sides. He was a mediocre ninja, but from his countenance he seemed like the perfect kind of man to work with the children. He smiled as he held out his hand. Temari gave him a kind smile as she shook his hand. Aha, quite a handshake you have there, Temari-san. Iruka said, one of his eyes closed. Thank you, Temari replied with a hint of a smirk. You'll have your hands full keeping Naruto out of trouble. Iruka said, shooting the whisker-cheeked Kage a look. Naruto glared defiantly at Iruka as the children surrounded him with grins and giggles at their Hokage. He would have retorted, but Kiichi-kun was climbing up his arm towards his hat. Oi! Naruto cried as he disappeared with a substitution log to the right where more children were ready with hugs and grins. Temari giggled, hand covering her mouth as she watched the children hang off of him, trying to get at his hat, whilst Naruto tugged and tickled. Normally children were intimidated by one of such importance, but it appeared that they were not cowed by his title at all. She probably should have faulted him for it. Such a lack of propriety about him when dealing with the children. But she couldn't help but find it strangely endearing as well. Temari felt something tug at her pants and looked down to see a small girl the size of a 3-year-old draped in an overly large shirt with a rope to keep it around her waist, thumb in her mouth. Excuse me, she murmured. But are you our Naruto Jai-chans? She said, green eyes wide. Temari beamed at the girl and she bent down to her. I am going to marry Naruto Jai, yes. She replied. I hope that's okay, she said with a wink and ruffled the small girl's green unruly hair. The girl flashed her 1,000-watt smile and shyly hid behind her huge stuffed animal as she introduced herself. I'm Sakori, everybody calls me Seiko-chan. She said, fidgeting with a small braid in her otherwise unruly hair. It's very nice to meet you, Seiko-chan, Temari replied, offering her hand to shake. Seiko-chan eyed the hand and launched herself into Temari's arms with a big hug instead. Temari was startled but hugged her back with a soft smile. She felt someone's eyes on her and turned to see Naruto looking at her with a tender look on his face. Temari curdled at the look, thunderstruck as she knew what implications that kind of look could have with her in the position she was in with little Seiko-chan. Temari released the girl abruptly, leaving Sakura startled. "I'm afraid we have to move on," Seiko-chan, Naruto told her, coming over and bending down to the girl. Oh, Seiko pouted, jutting her lip. "We'll be back to visit soon," he promised, ruffling her hair. Seiko-chan hugged him in the same manner she had with Temari, and he grinned, hugging her back. Naruto and Temari left the academy in silence. He considered showing her the swing set but thought better of it. She didn't need to know about his lonely past just yet. "Our academy children only take D-rank missions. We do train them with the knowledge to kill, but usually only after they graduate do they get placed into a team," Naruto commented. "The children were so innocent. It was refreshing," Temari replied. Her thoughts still drifted on the way he had looked at her. "Did you?" he started. But she said his name at the same time. "You first," he told her. "Look, I saw the way you were looking at me while I played with Sakura, and I want to be clear. I don't want children," Naruto, Temari said firmly. "That wasn't why I was looking at you like that," Naruto said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were sad and distant, and Temari was startled to see such a look in his eyes. "Why then?" she asked. "Sakura, better known as Seiko-chan by her peers, does not have a last name, if you didn't notice in her introduction," he said simply. Temari frowned. "She's an orphan, like many of the other children in that class due to the war with Sound. But the reason she doesn't have a last name is because she was found in our infiltration of Sound. She was one of Orochimaru's experiments that failed and was about to be culled before we showed up. She gets teased because of it," Naruto replied softly. "I didn't do anything special," Temari replied with a dismissive gesture, uneasy under his serious gaze. "You acknowledged her. The Hokage's bride gave her a hug, knows her name," Naruto replied firmly. "I might forget it tomorrow." "It wasn't anything special," Temari insisted, uncomfortable. "I looked at you the way I did because it made me happy to see you hugging her. As an orphan, I know what it means to her," Naruto replied, looking at her with those clear blue eyes. "On behalf of the youth of our village, I thank you, Temari of the Sand," he told her, bowing his head as his eyes filled with tears. Temari flushed uncomfortably, not sure how to respond to such an heartfelt sincerity. "You're welcome, Naruto," she replied, bowing in turn. He walked her down the streets of Konoha, figuring he could stop by Ichiraku when he sensed Konohamaru's chakra. He dodged the kunai launched at him and kicked the clone coming his way, turning as he threw the other clone bearing a Rasengan into a wall. The clone dispersed, though Temari had already whipped out her fan and dispersed the other clones, eyes narrowed dangerously. Naruto felt Konohamaru's chakra and gasped, pulling Temari into his arms. Temari lost her footing with his yank and stumbled into him, hands bracing herself on his chest to keep from falling over completely. Naruto summoned clones huddled around them, and he was able to take the brunt of the water balloon attack, which he realized had been filled with paint. "Ahaha. Got you, boss. If I had been an enemy ninja, you would have." Konohamaru froze at the sight. Temari pushed Naruto off of her, irritated as she pulled out her fan, dispersing his clones, as she looked at the Chunin in front of her. Blue eyes narrowed. "He bears your village insignia, but I can teach him a lesson he won't forget in manners," Temari said, and Konohamaru glared as he eyed the Sand Jounin. Mogi and Yuden appeared next to him as Temari regarded them with an arched eyebrow. "Ach. That's not necessary, Temari, Konohamaru just likes to play pranks," Naruto said, stepping in front of their team. "Who's she, boss?" Konohamaru asked. "His wife, idiot." Mogi scowled as she whapped him on the back of the head. "You're married, boss," Konohamaru exclaimed. "That's Hokage-sama to you, twerp, and I will be in 2 weeks, and you nearly got my wife." Naruto scowled. Konohamaru turned pale. He stammered. "Forgive his failure," Temari-sama. Yuden bowed formally, and Temari titled her head in an echo of acceptance. Yuden bowed again and kicked his teammates, who also bowed. "I'll see you later, boss," Konohamaru said, red-faced as his team disappeared. Naruto sighed, raking a hand through his blonde hair. "I'm really sorry about that, Temari. The kid thinks it's alright to ambush the Hokage at random and..." Temari glared openly at Naruto. "You tried to protect me?" she questioned, tone clipped. "Yay, I didn't think getting paint on you was..." "I didn't need your protection, Hokage-sama. I had my fan out and responded when you summoned your clones," Temari snapped. Naruto frowned and then it dawned on him. "Oh crap. I wasn't implying." "You didn't need to imply it," Temari replied with feeling as she walked off. "Temari, og. Wait, please, I wasn't trying to assume you weren't able to protect yourself," Naruto replied, falling over himself as he tried to grab her hand. Temari evaded the grip and stopped, glaring at the whisker-cheeked cage. "I know perfectly well that you could defend yourself," Naruto told her. "Then you should have let me." Instead you let your students assume I needed your interference." Temari snapped. Naruto blinked. "Now, I'm sure Konoha didn't see it that way, particularly when you dispersed his other clones." Temari growled and turned on her foot. "Ugh. What can I do to make it up to you? I can go grab Konoha if you'd like to clarify." "Temari, please." Naruto pleaded. Temari took a deep breath and stopped. "I have no need for you to do that, Uzumaki-san," she replied formally. Naruto winced. She was back to formalities. "Damn it. I'm tired from my journey, Hokage-sama," Temari prompted. Naruto felt like kicking himself knowing he'd blown it. It was only the first day, he thought. "Pathetic. I'll walk you home," he replied sullenly. She nodded. They arrived at the guest complex shortly, Anbu guards prowling the perimeters. "Hokage-sama, Temari Dono," the masked Anbu nodded. Temari nodded in turn. Naruto opened the door for her, which made Temari's scowl deepen as she stalked inside. "Look, I'm sorry," Naruto said, as he walked after her. "I didn't do it because you aren't a capable kunoichi. I just didn't want the first day you were here to be bombarded by paint and ruin your nice clothes," Naruto said as they stood outside her door. Temari turned, eyeing him with a hand on her hip. He was completely sincere, honest, even as he met her eyes without faltering. Idiot. He truly wasn't lying. "I am a kunoichi, Naruto. Clothing should never be an excuse for being unprepared for attack. I do not appreciate your protection over something insignificant in light of an ambush. Konoha and his team are hardly ambush-worthy. They do that every day," Naruto retorted. "Seriously, this paint is going to take forever to get out of my hair," he whined. Temari eyed him passively. Naruto sighed. "Look, I'm the chivalrous type. I open doors for girls, the whole 9 yards," he told her. "I do not require your chivalry," Temari replied, bristling. "I'm not doing it because I think you require it. It's not a necessity or like you're weak or something. I know perfectly well that you can take care of yourself, Temari. I'm doing it because I want to take care of you. I am perfectly fine on my own," she said through clenched teeth. "I know that," Naruto retorted. "Hell, most of the girls I hang out with could kick me 10 ways to next Thursday. Sakura's pounded me through a string of 8 buildings in her anger. Ino has interrogation skills and can friggin' switch bodies with people. Tenten could ram weapons up my ass before I even blinked. I'm surrounded by completely self-reliant and capable kunoichi," Naruto told her. "It's probably why I've lived as long as I have." "Then why aren't you marrying them?" Temari said derisively. Temari turned. "Hey, wait," he told her, grabbing her arm and turning her. Temari's eyes narrowed coldly. "Look, I know that you're capable, I just want to do things for you. You're not just my trophy or some political excuse. You are Temari of the Sand, an elite jounin and one of my best friend's sister. You also happen to be the unfortunate person who is stuck spending the rest of your life with me, and I want to do whatever I can to make that easier. I want to love you," Temari, Naruto stammered out. "And I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to embarrass you like that. I never want to embarrass you. You can beat me up in front of Konoha the next time if you'd like," he said with feeling as he sniffled away the tears that threatened to spill and wiped his nose. Temari's anger snuffed out at the near tears the boy had on his face. He was a ninja, nearly crying. For her. It was a weakness certainly, but it touched her nonetheless because he was a ninja. She didn't understand. She didn't understand him. Naruto was a walking contradiction of the way of the ninja. He wasn't proper. If any other ninja acted like this, they wouldn't last a second in Suna. And yet Naruto was the Hokage. And the people responded to him like nothing she had ever seen. This man was entirely himself, good or bad. Temari sighed. He may be overzealously ridiculous and chivalrous, but he was sincere. "I'll overlook it in this instance, Naruto. In the future please have faith in my skill," she emphasized. He beamed, eyes glowing like the brightest day in Suna in his joy. Temari felt the smile tug at her lips at his look. He was so easy to please, and that pleased her in turn. "I'll let you get your rest. You're going to need it tomorrow with Ino and her parade. Don't let them walk all over you. This is your wedding. It should be what you want it to be," Naruto told her. "You won't be helping with the planning," Temari stated, confused. "I was told that I didn't even have taste in my mouth, much less being able to coordinate enough for wedding planning." Naruto scowled, arms crossing, very much a little boy pouting. "I do not desire to plan this wedding alone," Temari replied. Naruto was surprised. "You want me there for the planning?" Naruto asked, hesitantly eyeing her. "It would be nice not to be alone among so many females," Temari said with a smile. "I'll be there," he said firmly, taking her hands in his. "I guess this is goodbye then," she hinted. "Ah. Till tomorrow. If you need anything just let Anbu know and they'll relay it along. I hope your rest is restful," he told her, stumbling over the words as he blushed. He still hadn't let go of her hands. "Till tomorrow," she said, tugging on her hand. Naruto brought her hand up to his lips and kissed it. Till then, Anata, he told her, blue eyes shining fiercely, red-faced. Temari felt the blush bringing heat to her cheeks at such an endearing term and turned to open the door before he could see it. Naruto waited until the door closed before taking off down the hallway, hands shoved in his pockets as he thought on his wife-to-be. "So how'd it go?" Kiba asked as he took a swig of his beer. The foam stuck to his upper lip as he wiped it off. Naruto sighed, ignoring the ice-cold beer that had been pulled up for him and slumped onto the counter, ignoring the worried looks exchanged from his friends. It had been a bad idea to meet up with them at the bar tonight, but Naruto needed all the help he could get. Wooing said Sand Kunoichi would be far more difficult than he had ever imagined. It would probably kill him if he lived long enough before the wedding anyways. That thought severely soured the Rakudame Hokage, who slumped further on the bar stool. "It couldn't have gone that bad," Kiba exclaimed, trying to comfort the obvious mopey Cage. Naruto gave him a look. Kiba shrugged and looked to the others who made up the Rookie Nine for help. "What happened?" Niji asked. It was rare that the Byakugan user ever went out with the guys to the bar, but he figured of all the nights, tonight would be an important night. Plus he was curious about Naruto's intended. Naruto's groan was muffled into the bar. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun. With the passionate flames of youth you will woo your lady fair." Lee's eyes grew all sparkly and he continued his justice rant, though everyone tuned him out. Troublesome Shikamaru sighed, taking a sip of his own beer. So far there was no awkwardness between them, though Temari had been an ex of his. The two had parted on friendly terms but hadn't spoken to each other yet. If he knew Temari, however, she wasn't going down without a fight. "Troublesome doesn't even begin to cover it," Naruto whined. "Konohamaru decided to play a prank today," he said, blue eyes dark and stormy in their despair. "Oh no." "Oh yes." Naruto repeated, knowingly. "I saved her from being bombarded by his paint balloons and a poorly timed Rasengan," Naruto said, taking a rather large swig of his pint. He slammed the stein down miserably and the bartender filled it back up again. "Great, man. That gets you like brownie points for damsel in distress," saving Kiba gave him a toothy grin and a thumbs up. "That's what started the fight," Naruto retorted, deflating as he slumped against the counter moodily again. "What?" Niji exclaimed. "Troublesome woman," Shikamaru grunted, shaking his head. "She was angry as hell that I'd stepped in. Said I wasn't respecting her as a kunoichi and it went downhill from there," Naruto said, lamenting lie. "I think I redeemed it in the end, but I have no idea." "That's bullshit," Kiba snarled. Of course he was also getting a bit tipsy as he worked his way through his 8th beer. Shino sighed. "She wants to be treated like a woman but respected as a kunoichi. It's a delicate balance." "Probably just angry she didn't get any," Kiba muttered. "What?" Naruto eyeing him speculatively. "So just what did happen on this tour of yours with Temari?" Niji asked with a grin at Naruto as he sipped his tea. The Byakugan user did not drink, having discovered his severe intolerance for the stuff at Shikamaru's bachelor party. "Nothing. We walked around Konoha. Saw the training fields, talked to Iruka-sensei," Naruto said, confused. "You mean to tell me you didn't do anything?" Kiba replied, looking at his cage friend incredulously. Naruto's confusion grew. "You know, man, did you try her out?" Kiba asked with a toothy leer and a nudging elbow. Shikamaru shook his head at the conversation. "Is that all you can think about, Kiba?" He glared. "He lives with dogs," Niji muttered. "Well, you don't buy a weapon without throwing it first," Kiba protested. And suddenly understanding flashed in Naruto's eyes. "No. Hell no. That's not fair, Temari's got that exotic look going for her," Chaoji commented. "It's not that, it's that she'd castrate me if I tried, and Gaara would maim me and then pulverize me with sand jutsu, and then he'd let Kankuro stuff me as a puppet." "Geez, Kiba," Naruto sighed. "So you want to then?" Kiba grinned with a lusty wink. Naruto actually blushed to his embarrassment, made worse by the knowing laughter of his friends surrounding him. "So you think she's attractive?" Niji said with a grin. "We all know she's attractive," Naruto replied, his cheeks slowly returning to their normal color. "But the problem is that I keep messing it up." He slouched. "I wouldn't say that," a familiar female voice said, and every male ninja froze. "The Temari," Naruto gulped. How did you get out of the C compound?" Naruto stammered. How long she had been standing there was anyone's guess. Temari stood resplendent in a red tube top that hugged her curves, showing off her bronzed skin. Glowing from her desert tan. Red suits her, he thought as he took in the rest of her. The black puffy pants and strappy flat sandals only added to her exotic look. She wore a sash around her waist, covering her miscellaneous weapons, and a smaller fan, about half the size, was strapped to her back. She tied the hideate around her neck and her hair was still in the 4 ponytails. Many of the ninjas stared at the Suna Kunoichi. She was a special jounin in her country, beautiful and deadly. "I managed to bribe your Anbu to let me out without my chaperones knowing," Temari said, smirking. She jerked a thumb to Kakashi and sighed. "She stole your porn, didn't she, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asked, eyeing the orange Icha Paradise book in her possession. The older teacher nodded, looking forlornly at his orange book. Temari tossed it back to him and the gray-haired copy nin had a seat at a table. She handed Sai back his paintbrush and he had a seat with Kakashi, pulling out his sketch pad. "Anbu these days," Naruto said nervously, scratching his head. "Don't fret, I won't spoil your boys' night. I came to have a drink and do some dancing. The girls left me a note that they would be here and I figured this would be a good opportunity to get to know them," Temari said with a shrug as she sat down at the bar stool next to him. Naruto glanced at her, trying to hide the look, but it was obvious he was looking. Temari smirked. At least they had that going for them. Both of them were curious about each other and sheer physical attraction was a useful thing. "Do you often come here?" she asked, meeting his look head on. Not often. Sometimes," he replied, her bold look making him cautious. Temari grinned. "I told you not to worry. I don't think I'll castrate you quite yet," she said, taking his beer from him and drinking it. Naruto swallowed. "I didn't mean any disrespect." "You weren't disrespectful," Temari said, waving a hand dismissively as she downed the pint. She wrinkled her nose. "Konoha beer has a funny aftertaste," she stated. "It's the wheat and barley here," Naruto replied with a shrug. "The music is good at least. Look at all the people dancing," Temari said optimistically as she looked at Naruto beneath her black lashes. "It's alright," he replied a bit uncertainly. Naruto was focused in on the newest beer set down before him, seemingly not aware of the subtle hint she had just given him. Temari was not one to beg and certainly not one to sweat over another man's lost. If he wasn't going to dance with her, then fine. She would find someone else to dance with. It was time to experiment on how her fiancé acted under duress. He was hesitant, still cautious, but Temari would provoke a response out of him. From the corner of her eye, Temari saw Shikamaru get up. Before he could sneak away and she grabbed him by his jounin vest, yanking him back down into the bar stool as she slid next to him. "Crybaby Nara, is it? Trying to run away?" Temari laughed. Shikamaru glowered at the sand Kunoichi. "Temari," he acknowledged gruffly. Naruto was surprised as he watched his fiancé saunter over, even more surprised to find Shikamaru and her actually getting along. Her turquoise eyes gleamed. If he didn't know any better he would have said that they were predatory as she talked with Shikamaru. But Shikamaru was married to Ino. Temari's laughter rang out as they talked and though Shikamaru was hesitant, he didn't stop talking to her. Naruto frowned. They had dated a few years back but it ended. Long-distance relationships never worked out. Temari suddenly grabbed his hand, making Naruto twitch. She led him out to the dance floor and began to sway. Shikamaru, red-faced and muttering what obviously had to be a Mendaki-sai, danced, albeit lazily, with her. Temari grinned as she laughed at Shikamaru. "It's been a while. I want a rematch," she told him. "Too troublesome," he replied. "I'd get my ass kicked." "You don't know that," she grinned. "Whatever it is you're playing at, I want no part of it," Shikamaru said, eyeing her distrustfully. "Whatever could you mean, Shika-kun?" Temari batted her eyelashes innocently. "You're deliberately provoking him and we both know it. I'm not your pawn. And I'm not going to," Shikamaru said, eyebrows drawing together. "You're his friend, right?" Temari interrupted. "Yay, I'm also his subordinate," Shikamaru said. "Then you know this needs to happen," Temari replied simply. "Troublesome," Shikamaru muttered. "Anything that involves moving with you always is, now get your lazy ass up and dance with me," Temari said, dragging him up. "Temari, I'm a married man," Shikamaru said. "Don't worry, Nara, I'm not interested in old flings. I'm not that kind of girl. And I'm a soon-to-be married woman. You don't need your wife to dance and you know this is good for him." "I have to know," Temari replied. Shikamaru shook his head. "You could just ask him." Temari shook her head, moving to the music. "There's no fun in that. I wouldn't be a ninja if I wasn't subtle." "What exactly are you trying to determine about Naruto?" "You're the genius," Temari replied. "As if I ever understood women, this is such a pain in the ass," Shikamaru retorted. "Yay, you always were a lazy ass," Temari replied. "But to answer your question." "Lots of things," Temari replied, spinning. "He's watching, pull me close for a second," Temari said. Shikamaru glowered, but complied. Temari didn't miss the flinch from Naruto or the clench of his fist as he slammed down another pint. She'd been watching him from the corner of her eye. So he did get jealous. Temari categorized that useful information for later. She could feel his eyes on her again and she laughed as Shikamaru spun her around the dance floor. But his gaze lost sight of her as a group entered and his entire body was turned, focused on the one person entering the room. His heart in his eyes, Naruto looked towards the newest approaching female who smiled and waved to him. Shikamaru could tell Temari was distracted by Naruto's distraction. She still kept in step with the dance, but her eyes were clouded. Shikamaru turned to see who had entered. "Ah, Sakura. Who is she?" She looks familiar, she asked simply, eyeing Shikamaru with a deadly glint to her sky blue eyes. Only the love of his life. Shikamaru replied with an eye roll. To his surprism, Temari didn't laugh. In fact, the Kunoichi looked dangerous. Temari's jaw clenched. Don't look like that. She's his teammate and she's engaged to Uchiha Sasuke. Shikamaru retorted, brows drawn together. Perhaps there was something more to this little arrangement than simply politics. Ah, the pink hair. She's the Gadame's apprentice. She saved my brothers then. Both of them. Shikamaru nodded. She's now the co-head of the hospital with Shizune, so Tsunade can focus on other things. How long? She asked simply, eyes cold and calculating. His entire life, Shikamaru said. Temari looked skeptical. Seriously. He gave her flowers when she was 3 and asked her to marry him. Temari felt her stomach clench. He was talking to Sakura now. Shikamaru spun her. Keep dancing and smile, Shikamaru said to her. Sakura could see the look on Naruto's face and she walked towards him and back to the bar. What's wrong? She asked. Naruto scowled. Don't give me that look. I'm your teammate. I know when something's wrong. And let's face it, Naruto, when you're upset about something, you pout. Naruto's eyes casually wandered to Temari and Shikamaru. Sakura's eyebrow arched. Jealous? She questioned. No, he pouted. Why didn't you ask her to dance? Because I didn't feel like it, Naruto retorted moodily as he crossed his arms. And now that she's dancing with Shika, what are you going to do about it? Sakura asked him. Nothing. I don't want to control her, Naruto replied sadly. Sakura's heart flinched for her ramen-loving best friend in cage. Come on, she said, grabbing his hand. Sakura-chan. Naruto stammered. This is a one-time only deal, Naruto. Sakura replied as she dragged him out to the dance floor. She wasn't about to let Naruto look bad in front of the Sunanin. Naruto brought her clothes as they danced, smelling the strawberry shampoo she used. This is bittersweet. Naruto told her softly. I've always wanted to hold you like this, he confessed wistfully. Sakura sighed. We're both engaged, Naruto. Don't you ever wonder what it would be like, though? He asked, her blue eyes serious. She paused. Yes. She replied. Naruto's heart clenched painfully as he took a sharp breath. But not enough to change what I have now. I'm happy, Naruto. You're my best friend, but I'm happy. Sakura replied firmly, conviction unwavering. She had never given up on Sasuke this entire time. I could make you happy too, Naruto said, blue eyes bright and intent on her. Naruto. Sakura trailed off. I love Sasuke. I could never do that to him. And you couldn't either. Naruto nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat as he looked at the ground. If you could only find this kind of happiness, Temari is a lucky woman. Sakura trailed off. Naruto swallowed and nodded numbly, emotion thick in his eyes. Go cut, and Sakura urged him. No. I don't want her to think I'm jealous, Naruto exclaimed. But you are. Sakura pointed out. That's beside the point, Naruto replied, pouting again. Okizama, Sakura said, fixing him with a no-nonsense stare. Go get her, Shanro. Sakura launched him towards the spinning pair. Naruto barely kept from bumping into them. Okizama. Shikamaru greeted. Ah, Naruto tried to formulate some sort of response when Shikamaru saved the proverbial day. Here, I'm exhausted, Shikamaru said, handing Temari off abruptly and heading to the bar. Giving a glare at the pineapple-haired genius, Temari fixed her attention on her intended. He had left his coat on the back of the chair. He wore his black shirt and green ninja pants. His eyes were bright and piercing blue and his hit eye flashed beneath the multicolored lights. Temari eyed the whisker-cheeked cage, waiting. How would you like to dance, Temari? He asked her. She nodded once and then gave him her hand. So she's the one who saved my brothers? Temari said, eyeing Naruto as they slowly danced to the song. He nodded. That's Sakura-chan. She's the co-head at the hospital. Temari nodded. She was never very good at subtlety, particularly when it regarded matters of her personal life. Missions were a separate thing entirely, but this instance was not something she could afford to be misunderstood on. So Temari came out with a question, addressing the issue head-on. You love her? It was a fact, a statement, not a question. Naruto's eyes widened. He caught hold of Temari's steel blue turquoise eyes, and they locked. She was searching his, waiting for his response. He knew that she would know if he lied to her. He wouldn't lie to her though, but admitting it seemed much more difficult now that he had essentially been rejected by the girl of his dreams. He nodded, unable to speak, as he looked at the pink-haired medical specialist talking with Hinata. I don't mean to be rude, but why marry me? Temari asked him. She's engaged. Naruto replied. So? Temari said with a shrug. That's never stopped people before. Naruto eyed her incredulously. He supposed he shouldn't have been surprised. Temari was the kind of woman that actively pursued what she wanted, consequences be damned. He had always liked strong women, so he supposed it was a good quality to start with. Let me say it again. She's engaged to my best friend, Naruto told her. But if you love her, Temari interjected. There's more to it than that. She loves him. And he actually loves her, which is really the miracle of the whole thing. I would never stand in the way of her happiness. Naruto replied, looking back at Temari. You still didn't answer my question though. Why me, especially since you're in love with someone else? Temari told him. It's not just business, Temari, if that's what you're thinking. I'm selfish enough to like the thought of being married, but I'm also selfish enough to want a real marriage. Yay, I love Sakura-chan. I'll probably always love her. But I could learn to love you, I think he said, scratching his head. Temari's eyebrow arched. More importantly, I want to learn to love you. She's Sakura-chan, but you're going to be my wife. You are the person I will marry and be with, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter in light of that. I can't live in the past anymore, he said, eyes serene and serious as he looked directly into her own turquoise blue. Look, it's not too late to call this off, she offered. I can see how much you love her. No. Naruto replied. She was surprised by the firm tone in his voice. Yeesh, didn't you just hear me? I want this. For your people, of course, Temari replied, clarifying. It never ceased to surprise her the amount of passion and emotion Naruto spoke with, but she couldn't risk assuming with him. It was appealing, the fact that he was so committed to everything he spoke of. Alright, she conceded grumpily. Maybe you weren't too far from it, Gaara, he is a good man. She thought. Not just that. It's good for Konoha, it's good for Suna, yes. But I want to see if this can work. I've never backed down from a challenge. Naruto told her with a grin. Temari smirked, satisfied with the answer. Good. Because I'm about as complicated as they come, and I'm not going to tolerate any bitch trying to steal what's mine. Temari told him, turquoise eyes gleaming predatorily, as she pulled him towards the center of the dance floor. Sakura and Shikamaru eyed the two as they danced on the floor with a knowing grin. There's chemistry there, for sure, Sakura commented with a cheerful grin. She wanted the best for Naruto, wanted him to be happy like she was. If Temari and him could be successful, then it could work out. After all, Temari wouldn't let Naruto get away with his stupid pranks, and in turn Naruto could lighten Temari up a bit. All in all, Sakura was pleased by what she saw as the two danced. Shikamaru nodded, slightly, and took a drink of his beer as he waited for his own troublesome wife to show. Dark eyes fixed on Temari with a look of concentration. She's hiding something. So I have a confession to make. Basically, I wanted to write another fight scene. There is little plot development and more filler, fun and romantic development for Narutima. This chapter was orchestrated because writing a semi-duel between Naruto and Sasuke entertained me, and it's all I want our blonde ramen-loving hero to do in the manga, and so this is how I vent my frustration. If you're about to complain about the fight scene, the move Toby uses is similar to Yandame's. If Sasuke can't see his, then I'm making the jump that he wouldn't be able to see Naruto's. You don't like it? Get over it. Besides, we all know that when boys get together they talk shit to each other. If you disagree, go hang out with boys for extended periods of time. I live and work with like 8 of them on an island. So pretty much I don't own anything because Kishimoto would die of a heart attack by the feminist approach I take to the Naruto ladies, and I am unapologetic for this chapter as I happen to like how this chapter came out. Temari entered the door, closing it behind her as she flicked on the lights. She wasn't surprised by the night visitor, she could sense his chakra from down the hall. Her hand was already around her fan and the other on the kunai concealed in her sash. Have a lovely evening. Matsu's voice rang out. He stood arms crossed in the Konoha embassy estate. In fact, I did. Temari replied to the sarcasm with a grin, knowing that it would irritate the man more than anything else. Temari wasn't about to allow him to walk all over her. Looks like you and the Hokage are getting quite cozy together, Matsu quipped. Then it's working exactly according to plan, Temari replied, tone hard, eyes piercing as she looked up at him. You didn't expect me to waltz in unannounced and try to invade the cage tower to start, did you? Temari scowled. My marriage is permanent. Matsu didn't respond. Typical. He was still a sloppy shinobi with no finesse for a delicate mission, but what man was, really? Temari waited, staring him down. Gee, he replied, crossing his arms. Something else you'd like to say? She snapped, waiting. She wasn't going to put up with his passive-aggressive bullshit. Just looks like you're getting a bit too cozy with your work. Matsu replied as he unsheathed a kunai. Temari slammed her kunai into the table in front of him, rising. She stood toe-to-toe in front of him, teal eyes blazing. You got something to say, Matsu, you'd better outright and say it. Temari exclaimed, teal eyes piercing in their intensity. She was calling him out here and now. Just wondering when you're going to get down to business, Matsu replied, twirling a kunai. I'm not going to do anything until after the wedding. As it is, they've scheduled me back to back with wedding arrangements until the day of, anyway, she told him, walking towards the dressing room. So it will be put off, then Matsu asked, a hint of anger on his tone as he walked after her. This mission is my prerogative and as such you will follow my lead, Matsu, not the other way around. We play by my rules, or not at all. If you got a problem with that, then leave. Temari commanded. Matsu looked angry for the rebuke. Obviously the man had been away for too long, calling his own shots for too long. As you wish, Haim-sama. Matsu bowed, stiffly. Temari sighed as he left. There was nothing she could do about Matsu. Temari went over the conversation in her mind, on his tone and phrasing. The jabs about her and Naruto went deeper than she thought they would. Naruto scowled as they pinned him. He grit his teeth as the pins came closer. Mondo, at least try to act like a ninja, Sasuke said, as he twirled kunai, bouncing them off of each other to hit the targets he'd set up around the room. Yay, Uzumaki, take it like a man, Kiba smirked, as he patted Akamaru who barked in support as he cleaned himself. I hate you all. Why do I even call you my friends? Naruto ground out as he looked at the enormous amount of pins that held his fabric-cut clothes on. Ouch. He winced. Okizama, please stop moving. The seamstress ground out between a mouthful of pins. Her assistant was kept busy with the shouts of his measurements and random fabrics, names that meant nothing to the ramen-loving cage. Perhaps he should have cared more, after all these ninja were the experts for their espionage clothing, but as he was covered in tiny pin pricks all over, he found himself less and less grateful. Naruto clenched his jaw, blue eyes hardening. How she kept from swallowing the pins in her mouth was anyone's guess. Professionals, he thought with a shrug. And winced as another pin jabbed him. Ow. So, you and Temari were looking all quaint and shit last night, Kiba said, giving a wink and toothy grin. Naruto sighed and earned himself another pin prick. Ow, damn it. You walked her home? Sasuke asked, Sharingan whirling as he concentrated on his targets. Kunai flickered by the seamstress's assistant, who couldn't muffle her terrified squeak. They were ninja, but Anbu and Cage level skill was beyond their talent. Team, knock it off. You make me rip this fabric and I'm screwed. Naruto ordered and then turned to Kiba. Nah, she turned in early. Apparently wedding dresses take longer than handmade tuxedos, so she had to get up early. I'm supposed to meet up with her for lunch. Naruto said with a shrug. Gee. I won't miss. I don't have your aim, Dobe, Sasuke retorted, but the kunai disappeared into his Anbu uniform. Sasuke didn't apologize to the disgruntled assistant, but it was the best that Naruto could hope for that he had even listened. It was a miracle when the Uchiha heir actually followed an order, so Naruto wasn't going to press his luck. You didn't walk her home? Idiot, Kiba told him, as he chewed on a drumstick from the appetizer platter that had been brought out. Man, being Hokage has its perks. He said as he took a sip of the ale in its frosty cold mug. Yay, have you missed the protecting the village with your life clause? Naruto retorted with an eye roll. Naruto was a simpleton. He didn't need much and he didn't demand much, as he had been poor and practically homeless in his youth. Everyone knew Naruto didn't care to use his perks. His friends, however, were another matter entirely. Yay, but the arranged marriages certainly have their perks. Hot bride, and Konoha's paying your marriage and house renovations, ain't it? Kiba asked. Gee. Easy for you to say, Naruto ground out. You get to marry whoever the hell you want. He said. Temari had finally finished with her wedding dress fitting. After being frilled and fluffed over by the seamstresses, asked which color she wanted. Off-white or buttercream, when both of them looked exactly the same, well, she was ready to be done. She'd gone with the most simple design she could convince them of and gone off in search of her fiancé. They had wanted more input from her, but she'd refused. She still had diplomatic immunity and she was milking it for all it was worth, consequences be damned. Sai and Kakashi trailed a hallway and a half behind her, keeping their respective distances, though it did little to put the Sandnin in a better mood. Even having bodyguards was irritating enough. She stopped at the receptionist who gawked at the Hokage's bride-to-be and quickly pointed the back way, scrambling to make whatever arrangements she seemed to think Temari needed. The Kunoichi needed no introductions or assemblies. She brushed past the stuttering and stammering woman with little hesitation, heading to her intended whom she knew would be full of pins and fitting for his tux right now. Temari was not superstitious, it didn't matter to her if she saw him or even if he saw her with dress or tux. And then she heard them. You are getting the marriage of the century and not paying a cent for it, man. All of us would kill to be you, Kiba exclaimed, chicken leg waving in air. If you like not having a choice. Naruto returned. Ow. You act like choices are all they are cracked up to be, Kiba retorted, bitter. Nobody wants a mongrel with fleas. Naruto said with a smirk. Guess everybody knows where you've been. With everyone, Sasuke said with a sniff of disdain, adding injury to insult. Boy. Kiba growled, insulted. Don't act so high and mighty, Naruto. We all know the taste you have isn't in your mouth or eyes. Sasuke replied as he stood. And what is that supposed to mean? Naruto retorted as he turned too quickly. Okage-sama. The seamstress gasped. The fabric ripped. But you lack taste. He replied. He's got a point, man, Kiba remarked. Your sage costume. You know, the bright orange and red together. And then that mystery raiment you made last year. Excuse me? Naruto snapped, old anger surfacing as the two bantered. What do you think it means, dope? Sasuke retorted with a sneer. Get this off of me. Now. I don't care if it fits or not. Now. Naruto ordered, barely keeping his temper in check. The pins were removed with ninja speed as Naruto turned, garbed in his black shirt, green shorts because of the summertime. Care to run that by me again? Naruto replied, eyes narrowed. It means you have no taste whatsoever in anything. You never have and nothing has changed. Sasuke retorted. You will remember, team, that we were in love with the same woman. He said between clenched teeth. So if my tastes were similar to yours, then I suppose we're even. He replied with a smirk. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Naruto had never been antagonistic about his engagement with Sakura. Or? Chi. Yeah. Were Naruto emphasized. Don't pretend you aren't lovesick or jealous of me and Sakura. And don't think I don't know how you've tried to come between us. Sasuke retorted with a snort. It's pathetic. Don't pretend to be better than you really are. Just because you're a cage and engaged doesn't make you anything other than a dope. Sasuke retorted. Naruto's fist clenched, jaw grinding as he glared at his best friend. Blue eyes flickered purple as he fought to control the fox who still teemed beneath the surface, though the horrible seal he'd borne most of his life was gone. Naruto opened his eyes, black slits dilating as he fought for control. Temari's eyes widened as she took in everything they were saying. She recognized the look on Naruto's face and the wicked gleam in his eye, the gleam that wasn't his. The gleam of a Jinchuriki lurking within. Naruto had a temper, and his teammates seemed to bring out the variety and flux of them. Temari entered, face reserved and cool as the Uchiha, the dog clan boy and Naruto all gave her a surprised look. Temari merely ignored them, choosing to approach her fiancé instead. Unearly, she said, short explanation as she took his arm. She could feel the tension melt from him, his eyes returning to their sky blue color as they eyed her on teal ones. Training grounds. She prompted. Naruto blinked owlishly and with a nod, accepted her arm on his, allowing her to lead him at a leisurely pace towards the door. I'll see you there, Dobe. Sasuke ground out, Sharingan whirling as he disappeared with ninja smoke. Naruto sighed. Kiba stood, mouth ajar as he had eyed the two. Damn, he said. He wasn't about to miss the duel of the century. He went to go spread the word. It was little surprise that half of the Rookie 9 were present, several of the Chunin teams from the Jounin instructors and of course the Hokage's personal Anbu. The members of the Rookie 9 were Team 8 minus Shino, who was out on a long-term mission, Team 10, Niji and Lee. Sai sat in a tree, sketching, whilst Kakashi sat in another one and read his Icha book. What is Hokage-sama doing? Hinata stammered as she eyed the two men. Their chakra crackled, the air tense. Being troublesome as usual, Shikamaru scowled as he eyed the quadruple pony-tailed Kunoichi talking to the Hokage. You know, this isn't quite what I had in mind when I said we should go to the training grounds. She said with a smile. Naruto eyed her and then returned back to wrapping his arms with bandages, struggling, to which Temari promptly took over, assisting him in the task. Why are you doing this? Temari asked him. The Lorbs eyed him beneath sooty black lashes as she took in his appearance. He left the hat on a bench, revealing unkempt shaggy blonde was hard muscle beneath his black shirt with an orange spiral on it. He double-checked his gear, glancing over it all with finite detail. His kunai were sharp and various enban were old, but still usable. He arranged them accordingly and placed them in pouches. Naruto didn't fight with larger weaponry, had no sword or staff to use. She recalled that he was a close-range fighter. Because team needs to remember why I'm the Hokage. Naruto replied. So your pride is hurt. Temari concluded, hands on her hips, as she eyed her fiancé with a skeptical look. There's more to it than that. Naruto retorted with a scowl. He retied his forehead protector in place, Konoha symbol gleaming. Temari hadn't noticed it before, but Sasuke bore no forehead protector. Then tell me, Temari replied as she returned her focus to her whisker-cheeked fiancé. He said I have no taste. Naruto said through clenched teeth as he glared at the spiky-haired brat prince of the Sharingan from across the training field. And? Temari retorted with an eyebrow arch. That includes my current situation, Naruto replied. Meaning me? Temari asked, hands on her hips as she stared her fiancé down. Naruto gave a curt nod. Temari sighed. You're doing it again, she told him, turquoise eyes rolling. Naruto took a sharp breath and turned to look at her, stormy blue eyes piercing in their intensity. This isn't me defending your honor. This is personal. If you want me to be honest, it has nothing to do with you and more to do with how team sees my life. He said with a pause of breath. I've made my choice. I don't regret my choice. And I refuse to let him look down on my life choices, whether it be you or anything else. Naruto replied. Temari grinned. She liked this new side of Naruto that she was seeing. He was being blunt with her and bold. And while Temari didn't need anyone fighting for her honor, she could understand that he felt he needed to do this for his own sake. His friends would respect his decision for what it was and needed to. He was the Hokage, but he was a man as well. He had his pride, not in arrogance, not in superficial things, but in the things that mattered. Temari was surprised to find herself not angry with him, but admiring his determination once again. Not only that, but she wanted to see the cage in battle, even a mock one, with her own eyes. He'd grown since Anne's failed invasion, and she wanted to see how he would deal with the Sharingan user. She hoped he'd wipe the training grounds with the spiky-haired Uchiha heir. I suppose break a leg would be appropriate, she said with a sly grin as she came closer to him. You're hoping I win? Naruto beamed, the hopeful look in his eyes nearly painful. She wondered how many people had seen this look of desperation, could see through the confidence and brashness and see the real thing. His terrible need for affirmation. Temari knew a bit of his past, could sense and understand the loneliness lurking beneath the surface. She couldn't help but respond to it because she'd seen it in her own brother. I have no doubt you will. She replied firmly. That wasn't what I was asking. Naruto said with a playful smile, blue eyes gleaming. He was flirting with her. And Temari liked it. Temari smirked, Cheshire Cat grin wide. I hope you wipe the floor with him. She whispered savagely, eyeing him appreciatively as she came closer. Naruto's grin widened, eyes gleaming, as his own eyes roved appreciatively in response. She liked that look. Temari's smirk widened into a smile as she stepped even closer, pulling him forward by his shirt, kissing him hungrily. Though startled, the whisker-cheeked Cage recovered well, pulling her taut against him as he kissed her back. Temari ran her fingernails through his unkempt hair, learning his taste. He broke off the kiss, licking his lips with a mischievous boyish grin. Temari was rewarded with a dark cloud of desire in those bright blue orbs. He took her hand and kissed it, ignoring her playful glare. See you soon, he promised, ignoring the whistles and hoots from his friend as his eyes darkened in intensity, focused on the man in front of him. Temari couldn't hide her grin, eager as she watched her intended. Sharingan blazing, Sasuke stood, waiting. We doing this with jutsu or to jutsu only? Naruto asked. Jutsu, Sasuke snapped. Weapons? Naruto questioned. Whatever you have, he replied sharply. Fine by me, Naruto replied, crouching. Aiki and Anbu members shouted and the battle began. Sasuke launched forward, Chidori blazing from his sword, launching it forward with a sail of kunai. The clone that apparently was Naruto dissipated. Sasuke turned, catening the ground. Naruto exploded from it and dodged, leaped and tumbled from the fire and the blade, only infuriating the Sharingan user. Ino came up next to Temari as she watched the two. What are they fighting over now? The blonde asked. Temari shrugged. Does it matter? Ino smirked. Not particularly. They blow up at each other occasionally. I hope this time they'll deal with their Sakura issues. Ino retorted. Shikamaru eyed the two, that meandered over lazily, hands in his pockets. Sakura issues? Temari replied, eyebrow arching. Naruto summoned his Rasengan Shuriken and watched, fascinated as the chakra-made weapon whittled after the Uchiha, his clones pursuing. Clones burst with ninja smoke on both sides as they dissipated. It was fascinating to watch. Sakura's my best friend. But she refuses to get involved, and so the boys just beat each up and save their comments when she's not around. Ino replied. Typical, Temari replied, eyes on the fight as she watched Naruto move. He might be a klutz and shuffle awkwardly around normally, but he was night and day on the training field. The determined glint in those sky blue eyes, the confidence that he exuded in battle. Briefly she wondered if he would have that kind of confidence facing her. She grinned at the thought. She wanted to fight him. So you like him? Ino asked with a smirk. Temari turned to the blonde, regarding her contemplatively for a second. Did she like him? She watched as Naruto landed a swift uppercut on the Sharingan user and her smile lit. She couldn't help it. Yeah. I like him. She replied with a grin as she watched him exchange a volley of weaponry. His wind chakra was strong as she observed. She might even be able to learn a thing or two from him, but he needed to learn how to harness the wind with his weaponry. He could make weapons out of chakra, but he wasn't very good at laying chakra on top of things. He had to have other weapons than his fist and his enormous chakra reserves. The more weapons you had in your arsenal the better, and it wasted a lot less chakra to place a layer on a weapon than his own monstrous chakra creations. He was shabby long distance, and the Sharingan user pressed his advantage, nicking him on the face with one of his kunai. Naruto's eyes narrowed, and chakra burst around him in an aura as he literally disappeared. Temari's eyes widened as she recognized a trademark move that she had only read about in files and archives. Gods. He really was the fourth son. Jeter Sasuke spit as he fell to the floor knocked out of breath. The Sharingan couldn't sense the trademark move of Konoha's yellow flash, the Yondaime Hokage. Sasuke had much more training to do before he could copy the move to counter it. His eyes couldn't copy what he couldn't see. Naruto shook his head, walking away. Temari noticed the limp.not cheating, Sasuke. I had to learn it on my own. Any knowledge of that jutsu died with my late father. Oh, not again. A familiar voice shouted out. A flash of pink hair and a red vest with a circle in the back was with Sasuke, healing it. Naruto. Sakura shouted, blood vessels blaring. Blood trailed from Sasuke's lip as he had miscellaneous cuts and bruises all over his body, and he coughed again, the ground scattered with flecking blood. I guess I overdid it a bit, didn't I? Naruto said, scratching his head. Sakura's verdant eyes narrowed as she glared at the cage. That isn't a training field jutsu. Ugh. Get over here. Sakura's green chakra briefly glanced over him, checking for internal damage. Naruto sighed. He started it, you know, Naruto mumbled. You haven't perfected that jutsu yet. Your chakra coils are bruised from the strain. You're lucky you didn't sustain any internal damages. No more using that jutsu in the training grounds. Sakura scolded. Particularly not on Sasuke-kun, she said, glaring. Naruto grinned. It was a pretty awesome jutsu na Sakura-chan. He elbowed her and then winced. Sakura was not amused. You keep the surface damage to remind you not to mess around. Sakura said. Here, lift your shirt, you got a pretty nasty gouge. She told him. Temari stepped up behind him just as he was about to lift it. I can take care of him. Worry about the Ichigo. She said, eyeing the pink-haired medic nin. Sakura bit her lip. It was obvious she was torn between allowing the sand nin to do it or not. Sakura was smart, Temari figured. She was probably worried about how it would look if she treated Sasuke before the Hokage or some other political nonsense that shouldn't matter. Temari knew enough about wounds to be able to deal with this scratch, and it was obvious that Sasuke needed medical treatment. Call it a strengthening of our alliance and an assurance of Sans faith in Konoha. Temari replied. Sakura looked to Naruto, awaiting his orders. Naruto nodded. I trust her. He said, with a smile directed towards Temari. Sakura nodded and bowed. I am grateful for any aid you give my teammate and Hokage. She said formally. Temari nodded back in acknowledgement. Don't worry. He's in good hands. She said with a smirk. Kiba snickered from the background. Neji punched him in the back of the head. Lee shook his head, muttering something about the passion of youth to his genin. They looked horrified. Temari ignored them. You have a place we can go from here? She asked Naruto. He nodded. They are renovating the cage house, but I still have my apartment. Naruto replied. The condemned one? Sakura eyed him. Naruto ignored her. Come on. He said, taking Temari's hand and leading her on. Naruto, she frowned as she watched him and Temari head off. Shaking her head, old regrets did nothing now, and Naruto had made his choice, and Sakura had made hers. Sakura loved her life, and her job, and her man, the love and the sum of her entire life. She went to work patching Sasuke back up. Ino launched herself at Shikamaru with a smile, wrapping her arms around his neck as she giggled with glee. She likes him, she trailed in a sing-song voice. I am so good at my job. The shadow user glared at his wife, rolling his eyes as she snuggled against him, thrilled with herself. I hardly think you can take credit for a political arrangement as the wedding planner. Shut it, Shika. I finally found happiness for our cage, and you are not going to spoil it. Ino snapped. Shikamaru rolled his eyes and huffed. Mindaki-sai, he muttered. You love me anyways. She informed him, kissing his forehead. He blushed beet red, but those dark eyes followed Temari's form following Naruto. That nagging feeling was still there from the other night. And it was only getting stronger. Don't worry, for those of you worried about weak plot. It's coming, just not as quickly as I was hoping. This might end up being more chapters than I anticipated, but that's not a bad thing if I can make this story actually good. Go shower love and praise on Purple Shinigami, who has volunteered to be my new beta muse. She's the reason you have this update. Temari rounded the corner of the rundown streets of Konoha, having long since abandoned his hand to simply follow with ninja speed and prowess. It gave her a boost of pride that he was trusting her in this sort of area. After all, Naruto was Hokage of all of Konoha, even the rundown portions of the hidden village. Any normal cage wouldn't have taken his intended anywhere near this place. The blood was drying to his shirt, welling there from the gouge to his back from Sasuke's sword, reminding her of their purpose. She needed to tend to his wounds. Naruto kicked a door open, the broken rotting boards, mostly for show apparently. Careful on the steps, he warned, and Temari took in the rickety staircase, following after him skillfully, careful to step only after he did. They entered the second floor into a hallway with a single door. Temari looked to him, eyebrow quirking in question. This is home, he told her with a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were dark, clouded the calm before a storm about to break. Or was when the Sandaime lived. Temari followed, and Naruto pulled out a set of keys. He placed the first one in the lock and the second and the third following after. Turning them deftly, he applied pressure on the door. He pushed with a grunt of effort and it popped, creaking open. Temari was surprised by the extent of locks, but the sinking feeling in her gut told her it was necessary. Memories of her brother, of the way people had treated him, the fear she had felt of him encompassed her in that moment. Temari swallowed angrily, mentally berating herself. She wasn't weak, and her brother was not that monster anymore. Naruto walked in, placing his keys on the dusty counter, heading to the cupboards. The walls bore marks, previous wear and tear, and something faint in red. Temari stepped closer to the wall, fingertips tracing the paint. Her nails scratched the top coat of paint, revealing red letters. Naruto's hand on hers startled her, and she turned to regard the whisker-cheeked cage with a glare. "Leave it," he told her, blue eyes dark still, though she could see the warm sky blue breaking through the stormy surface. His fingers stayed near her own. "What is it?" Temari replied, eyes piercing. Temari wasn't much for taking orders. "Nothing important," Naruto replied, turning. "I want to know." Temari insisted. Naruto sighed and turned regarding the wall. "People used to come and vandalize my apartment before I got the locks." Naruto replied, refusing to meet her eyes as he looked at the wall. Temari blinked. Of course. Gaara had experienced that sort of cruelty from the people of Sand. Of course the people of Konoha having a hatred of the Kyuubi would blame a child. Temari clenched her fists, feeling her nails bite into the skin of her palm. Temari used to be one of them. It made her skin crawl. She was disgusted with herself of all people. Stupid, stupid hateful people, she whispered. Naruto turned, sky blue eyes rimmed with that darker blue. "No." Naruto replied. "No. No, you got the justice you deserved." "No." Temari demanded, outraged. He of all people should understand this. Naruto's blue eyes were calm and piercing in their silent intensity. "No. They just needed something to do with it, as all." Naruto replied simply as always. Perhaps that was the difference between them, Naruto's simple thinking. Did he have it within him to hold a grudge? He was still best friends with a man who tried to kill him, several men who tried to kill him as she thought of her brother. With what? Their petty indifferences. Their anger towards a child who'd done nothing wrong. Temari snapped as she stared at the wall angrily. Why couldn't he understand? This wall, the wall those people had put up to keep a child. Those who had the misfortune to bear the Jinchuriki out. The wall she had been a part of, helped make. Naruto shook his head sadly. "Their pain," he replied as he stared at the wall with different eyes. His eyes were soft, dark, but resolved. Naruto had settled with this wall long ago. Temari looked up. "Naruto," she paused. This was why he was Hokage. His belief in his people, his steadfast belief in himself and in others. Naruto saw the best of people. He met her eyes, smiling, though sadness threatened the creases of it. "It's alright. I've made my peace with it," he told her, this time the smile finally meeting his eyes. "You've proved them all wrong," she replied, impulsive. He needed to hear it. "You are the Hokage of Konoha now." Naruto's smile grew wider, those eyes brighter, and he nodded and turned. It pleased him immensely. She understood why. Temari saw the blood again and was reminded of their purpose. "Do you have a med kit here?" she asked him, all business again. "I had Sakura for a teammate," he replied sarcastically, but went to retrieve it. He returned shortly, handing her the case. Temari set it on the counter, fishing through what she would need. "Take it off," she ordered. What?" Naruto stammered, startled by the order and feeling his cheeks flame. "Your shirt." Off, she motioned with a jerk of a thumb as she ripped open sterilizing pads and ointments. Naruto did as he was told, lifting the short-sleeved shirt over his head. He let it fall to the floor as he waited for his intended, feeling nervous and not understanding entirely why. He'd been shirtless in front of Sakura-chan and every other nurse and pragmatical kunoichi who had tended him. When she was finally ready, she met his gaze, turquoise eyes taking in the expanse of flesh revealed. Naruto tried not to read too much into that look, though secretly pleased with her reaction. The surprise at his physique and the unexpected look of approval she wore on her face. It gave him a base for some confidence, which if the whisker-cheeked cage confessed, was lacking. Temari unsettled him. He never knew what she was thinking. She always seemed to catch him off balance. He didn't want to be a klutz in her eyes. He wanted to be dashing and attractive and… Temari took in the sight approvingly. He was muscular, taut abs practically a washboard across his tanned flesh. The seal that had held the Jinchuriki was no longer there, a fact that startled Temari. She moved on, trying hard not to stare. Nice muscular arms, but not too bulky, he fit his frame, filled it without being too big or lanky. His shaggy blonde hair unkempt and sky blue eyes like Asuna sky, sitting there shirtless and a look on confusion and something akin to hope, but hope for what she couldn't begin to guess. He wasn't just handsome, he was downright sexy, albeit cute in his confusion. The man was hot, though part of his appeal was that he was seemingly unaware of this trait, a fact that Temari intended to take full advantage of later. It wasn't surprising, he was a ninja, and perhaps that was the glory of being a kunoichi, to be surrounded by delicious-looking men. Naruto was tanned all the way from what she could see. Briefly, she wondered if he had other tan lines. She felt a smug grin tugging at the corners of her mouth. She would discover soon enough. Naruto tensed as he felt her calloused fingertips touching carefully across the expanse of his back. Very few people had really touched him, and even less females. The only other one he could truly recall was Sakura-chan touching him, but her hands were always cold and it had always been as emetic, never as anything more. In contrast, Temari's hands were warm calloused hands coming in contact and roving over his skin professionally. What profession? He wondered, biting back the purr he felt. Does it hurt? Temari's warm voice came to his ear, feeling the warmth of her breath on his shoulders. He fought the shiver he felt. No. He replied firmly. I'm fine. Temari made no reply, just continued to gently examine and stroke the skin around the gouge. Naruto closed his eyes, the feel of her fingertips on him good, too good. He liked her touching him, feeling the muscle that tensed beneath the surface of his back. He took a deep breath. Doctor's assessment? He asked teasingly, trying to distract himself. The color's off. She replied, with a frown. It's poisoned. Ah. Sasuke lines his blades with poison. Don't worry. He told her with a smile. Don't worry. Your so-called best friend fights you and stabs you with a poison blade and I'm supposed to be unconcerned. Temari retorted. What kind of friend is he? Naruto was surprised by her anger. She simply didn't understand. He's my best friend. Besides, it will heal on its own. He said with a shrug. Heal on its own? Temari repeated, in disbelief. Naruto sighed. The Kyuubi keeps me pretty healthy. One of the perks of being a Jinchuriki of the fox is that he heals me. Poisons just take a bit longer, which is why Sasuke uses them in our spars. They don't seem to take effect on me like regular ones should. He replied. Temari sighed. You must be some kind of masochist. What do you mean? Naruto asked genuinely. You became the cage of a village that hates you, befriended an antisocial man that was a traitor, and might just as soon kill you as anything else. You are in love with your teammate who's engaged to said sadist best friend, and you're forced to marry me, Kami-sama, Naruto. It's like you're glutton for punishment or something, Temari exclaimed as she applied the antiseptic on him. Naruto winced, the sting in his wound too much like the pin pricks earlier. I'm not forcing myself to marry you, Temari. Naruto replied, turning. Blue eyes bright, he eyed her with his heart in his eyes. Temari looked away, embarrassed by his easy emotions and her own reaction to it. She slaved the ointment on top of it delicately and brought out the bandages for binding the wound. Naruto sighed into her gentle touch. I want to, he continued, softer admonition startling the sand kunoichi. Why? She asked, softer still as she glided her hands across his back, bandaging the wound in spite of his assurance that the Kyuubi would take care of it. Because I can and I will. He replied, with a boyish grin. Gee. Are you always so determined? Temari replied with sarcasm, rolling her eyes. Usually, though you'd have to ask my teammates to be sure, he responded with a grin. Temari responded with a huff. She had no desire to deal with the pink-haired medic anytime soon. He turned and grabbed her hand, brushing a haste kiss across it impulsively. Temari grabbed her hand back, eyes narrowed. To which Naruto only grinned more. Thank you, he said, a sort of seriousness making its way across his features. For what? Temari replied, wondering at the many moods and tones that Naruto seemed to fade into and out of within a moment. These leaf nin were so open about their emotions. Taking care of me, he replied with a shy smile. You're welcome, Temari replied. Realizing she'd given up a perfect opportunity to bring up sound, Temari inwardly seethed, cursed herself. Maybe Matsu was right. She was getting distracted by him. Temari's eyes flashed, darkening. Seeing her look, Naruto frowned. Did I do something wrong, he asked, stepping forward, eyes full of concern. Turkua's eyes met his own, and she forced a smile. No, she said, waving her palms. I'm just lost in thought, sorry. Temari replied, turning from him. Shall we go? She prompted. It's okay. Naruto replied with a smile. And then the sound of his stomach gurgled loudly. Ahehe, he said, scratching his head. Lunch then? Temari asked with a grin, unable to stop from laughing at his antics. His laughter, much like his personality and enthusiasm, was contagious. Lunch it is. He replied, taking her arm. Naruto. Temari said, tugging him back. You forgot your shirt, she said, grabbing the shirt from the floor. Oh. Right. That. Naruto replied, a little sheepish. Temari cocked her head at the whisker-cheeked cage. Come here, she ordered with a sigh. Naruto's eyes widened, but he did as he was told. Temari pulled the shirt over his head, guiding his arms through. The shirt in question rumpled and twisted at the top of his chest. Temari used her hands unbunching and untwisted the shirt, guiding it down his torso with her fingers, carefully at the top to avoid brushing and sticking with the bandages. Her hands guided the shirt over those taut muscles, fingertips brushing his abdomen. Temari looked up. All done, she smiled. His eyes were dark, clouded and unreadable as he looked at her. Naruto, Temari asked, confused at his look. And his stomach rumbled, interrupting them. Naruto blushed. Lunch then, Temari replied with a grin, turning and leading the way out the door. Naruto waited with bated breath, blue eyes as wide as saucers, as he waited with eager anticipation of his intended's reaction. She could feel his breath on her neck and it gave her the chills. Naruto was being worse than the creepers in sand who thought they could peep on her while she bathed at the hot springs. She slid her stool away from him rather than pummel him like she wanted to. He was still staring and began to lean even closer. Temari frowned. Stop looking at me like that, she ordered with a dark glare. It was annoying. Sorry, he replied, fidgeting like a small child on candy. Hands, legs even squirmed in spite of his seat on the stool, which wobbled dangerously with his pent-up energy. She had flat out refused to order it while he was leaping and bounding. Idiot. Why had she thought it was a good idea to let him choose the place? Temari glared. I said stop it, she replied firmly, glaring at the whisker-cheeked cage with her firmest jounin voice. The voice did nothing whatsoever but disappear, lost on the ramen-loving blonde. It didn't even take the blue from his eyes. No wonder his friends were so abusive. The only way to get through was to beat the sense into his dense skull. Temari scowled. Did nothing damper his goddamn chipper attitude. Try it. He insisted, eager as he tapped his fingertips together, that stupid grin on his face. Temari frowned as she looked hesitantly at the noodle concoction sitting in front of her in the maroonish brown bowl. She had never tried ramen before but knew that this was, in fact, his favorite food. And he was giving her that look again. She sighed. She wouldn't be able to avoid it forever. Picking up the chopsticks, to which Naruto exhaled sharply and took another sharp breath, Temari lifted them up. She looked over at Naruto, who looked like he might keel over from lack of oxygen at any moment with his held breath, and sighed. Best to get it over now than later, and the cage passing out in the ramen shop would not bode well for her political favor. She blew on the noodles and lifted them to her lips, slurping the noodles up. Well? Naruto asked with excitement, practically dancing in his antsy anticipation on the stool that was threatening to give way. He really was just too pleased with himself to contain his overenthusiasm. It's alright, Temari replied reluctantly. To which the blonde looked aghast. The stool had finally given its last effort to preserve the cage, and he leapt to his feet whilst the chair fell apart. Temari watched, wondering if that had been from skill or sheer luck. Alright. Alright. Naruto exclaimed, aghast, opening his hands in a gesture of horror. It's ramen, Temari. The single-handed lie most awesome food ever invented. Greater than sliced bread or dango, Naruto lectured on. The poof of Anbu appearing had Temari on her feet, fan out with steeled eyes as she glanced at them. She sighed. She'd have to learn to stop reacting to Konoha Anbu. They were not her enemies and she might wear out her diplomatic immunity that way, but it was her nature to be weary. She'd lost too many good ninja that way. Naruto's face lost all silliness, a look of business overtaking him. Okazama, your presence is required immediately, the first one said, eyeing him. Temari sighed, snapping her fan up. Duty calls. She replied to the forlorn look in his eyes. He nodded, deflated as he trudged out. I'll see you later. He asked. She rolled her eyes. I can't exactly avoid you in your own country, she replied. Naruto deflated further and suddenly Temari felt like she kicked a puppy by his expression. I'd like that, she replied. He looked at her and then leaned over, kissing her on the cheek. Temari tried to fight her flinch. Finish your ramen. Temari made a face. Please, he begged, and then promptly vanished with ninja smoke along with the Anbu members. Temari sighed from her seat on the stool. She pushed the bowl away and grabbed her fan. Ramen was the last thing on her mind. She was getting too close to the situation for comfort. It was time for some training. One Naruto had just finished submitting his most recent paperwork, had finally caught up with Ino on the majority of wedding preparations, and had effectively delegated the majority of the work, though Ino had screeched it was because he was lazy and wanted to cloud watch, and was actually enjoying a half-day off when he saw Temari walk from the ramen stand. He took a look around. Their whisker-cheeked cage was nowhere in sight. Anbu was nowhere near her. It was as if they had simply let her wander without any restriction around Konoha. Naruto must have had business to attend to and had left her. Shikamaru muttered as he stuck his hands in his pocket, fishing for his cigarettes. He lit up, taking a deep hit as he exhaled the smoke, the quad pony-tailed Kunoichi within his sights as he followed her. Naruto was a good cage, but he was too trusting. Or he was getting too attached. Or he simply couldn't see what she was doing. Shikamaru couldn't either, but then again he was closer to the subject matter at hand than he would have preferred. He wanted to think that he knew her, but Temari had changed and he wasn't so sure anymore. Regardless, he trusted his instincts because they had saved him more times than one. He followed after her. Temari was too good of a ninja not to have noticed his presence, which he didn't even bother to hide. Shikamaru had nothing to hide from the woman in front of him, and to hide would send the wrong message to her about his own intentions. Besides, it was too troublesome. She walked, meandering. And he saw her destination. The training fields. She stopped. You planning on following me all day? I assure you, even you'll get bored. Temari didn't turn. Gee. You know why I'm following you. Shikamaru replied with a half-hearted shrug. Temari finally turned, turquoise eyes narrowed and sharp enough to cut steel with that look. This was the look she had worn whenever they had fought, which had been frequent. This was also the look she'd worn when she told him to get out of her life. I'm afraid I have no idea what you're talking about. Mind filling me in? I don't appreciate stalkers, and I'm sure your wife wouldn't either. Temari replied, tone hard as she looked balefully up at the taller nin. Pineapple hair spiked, annoying as she eyed the shadow user. He was too lazy to start a fight here, but he annoyed her nonetheless. Tell me and I'm gone. Shikamaru replied simply, crossing his arms. Temari glared. I already told you. Stubborn to a fault. Exactly like Naruto. Gods, the two were a match made in heaven. Or hell, depending on the situation. The two would be a force to be reckoned with, that was for sure. Shikamaru sighed and stepped forward. Whatever it is, Temari, you'd better be damn sure it's worth another ninja war over. Because that's exactly what you're risking right now. Shikamaru told her, flicking his cigarette on the ground and crushing it beneath his sandal. Temari felt her resolve bruise. It wasn't that she hadn't known her diplomatic relations could be stretched, but with Shikamaru knowing, the stakes seemed to have risen. The consequences of this sort of action gave her pause to her resolve. Was Matsu lying to get closer to Konoha? But even if he was, she was here to stop him, and the only thing she had really committed to was discovering more about the situation. Temari wasn't stupid. She didn't trust Matsu enough to think he wouldn't betray her or hadn't lied to her. She simply didn't have enough information to go on before she started pointing fingers and making assumptions. It was better to have Matsu assume she was on his side and to take him down herself should things prove troublesome. Right now, she needed to buy herself some time to investigate this. She needed answers. You want to talk. You're risking diplomatic peace simply by accusing me, Temari replied. Was it worth it? She challenged, eyebrow arched. You're not the type for cheap political shots like that, Temari. I know you better than you think, replied. Or so you think. Temari replied back. As you can see, all I'm doing is planning on getting some training in while Naruto attends to cage business. So leave before I'm tempted to use it, Temari replied. Shikamaru merely looked her in the eyes, those black eyes piercing and penetrating. He was looking for a lie. He was looking for some sort of clue to tell him what was going on. She wasn't going to give him any. Temari couldn't look away. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her back down, and more importantly she was resolved to figure out what was going on. She wasn't stupid. There was more at stake here than what was happening. She would figure this out, but it would be her way, not Shikamaru's, Matus's or Naruto's. Nothing else to say. Temari snapped. Only that I'm going to stop you. Shikamaru replied, not even stopping as he walked, hands stuffed in his pockets. You think you're so smart, don't you? Think you've got me all figured out? Temari's eyes narrowed. Arrogant, lazy bastard. I'm not doing anything. Yet, she thought. Matsu sat in the comfortable Konoha chairs and went over what he knew of the Hokage Tower. If Temari wouldn't help him, he would do it himself. He had to. He owed it to her to do this. Temari came in, the door slamming. It's past time that you were honest with me, she told him, eyes like glass, sharp and piercing as they reflected her anger. I want answers, she demanded coldly. Matsu's eyes narrowed. What answers? He replied. How typical of Temari to flounce in and demand answers. She was a true princess already, royalty that didn't ask but took without tolerance or indifference. You need to tell me everything you know. Temari replied. Or what? Matsu questioned. Temari's eyes narrowed. You're asking me to risk diplomatic relations on this little coup. I think it's within my rights to question you. Temari replied. Why? You don't trust me. Matsu replied sarcastically. You know I don't trust you, and I'm not sure I'm committed to this. You've got 2 minutes to explain to me why this is worth treason before I let Anbu take you. You want this bad. Why? Temari retorted. Matsu's eyes closed and he took a deep shuddering breath. You remember that Orochimaru had control of our Kazekage at the time. Kabuto Matsu strangled the word out. Kabuto was placed in charge of some experiments during the, shall we say, captivity of sound. What kind of experiments? Temari asked. Yes, she remembered. Her team, her own little brother had been nearly sacrificed in the process. Temari had been naive then, had trusted in the way of the ninja. Instead she'd been used, thrown like dog food to the Konoha ninja, and left at the mercy of her own brother's demon. If it hadn't been for Naruto, her brother would be dead, sacrificed by Orochimaru's twisted ambition. Thanks to Naruto and the dying effort of the Sandaime, the situation with Sand had been righted and her brother had been given back his soul. Orochimaru was dead now, but it wasn't enough. Temari wanted her own revenge. Angry didn't begin to describe her hatred of sound. During their occupation, Kabuto began experimenting on children, snatching them from Sand families, telling them that their children had been chosen to participate in a special ninjutsu program. Matsu's scathing tone hardened, his fist clenched. My sister was one of those children. When it was discovered that Orochimaru had masqueraded as the Kazekage and that we all had been played, we went to search for them. We scoured the desert for weeks. Kabuto's lair was buried beneath a mountainside by the dunes. Matsu swallowed, the emotion in his eyes hard to bear. I found my sister, splayed open like a science experiment. Her mouth was open in a silent scream. I thought she was dead until I saw her eyelids twitch. Without Kabuto she was dying, slowly, from lack of whatever he had been using to keep her alive. I couldn't. We the others ended her life. We found over 150 Sand children, splayed out in the same manner. It was evident that he had tortured and then molested them. Matsu choked. She was only 9 years old. He muttered. Temari had heard about the experiments but had never been privileged to this sort of information. But it was the kind of information that would not be shared with a woman. I will find him. He said, eyes narrowed. And that is why I followed through. Konoha lied about killing him. He's alive. He's alive and he's doing. Matsu choked, taking a moment to compose himself. I want to know why Konoha lied about his death. I want to know why they're protecting him. And most importantly I want to find out where they found him last and why they let him go. Matsu told her, eyes hard. He isn't lying, Temari thought as she took in his countenance. Eye contact the entire time, tears could be faked, but not the sort of passion he was displaying. He meant his words, though what they meant in regards to Orochimaru's assistant, who knew. What if Naruto and Temari are secretly dating? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.